a beautiful Saturday here in Alpharetta, Georgia, as we get ready for the SCC group stages, qualify into the SCC proper. My name is Finch, and I am joined here on the desk by Will, Gormizer, Newberry. Gore, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. It's Saturday. We had a lot of really good games yesterday.
We did.
I anticipate to see a lot of really good games today as well.
I think so too, man. I mean, I really do. Yesterday surprised us a little bit. Remember, I think Hype Unit are the team that everyone would have expected to make it out of those group stages in North America that wasn't quite able to make it. Of course, there were some adverse conditions for them, you know, and they certainly put up a good performance. They didn't quite make it. I expect we'll see something similar here today as well. There's more good teams than there are spots available, right? So by just numbers, obviously everybody cannot make it. Here are your two groups. Just like yesterday, we're going to be sticking in Group B for today just because of the way the matches went. Group A didn't end up being all that competitive. I think it was largely 3-0s the whole way. So we'll be following Group B today to see who can qualify out of that.
And what's weird is, in my mind, both groups have, essentially, on name recognition alone, 5 teams that are fighting for 3 spots. Like you said yesterday, Hype Unit was taken out. And then you have to look at, like, history. Like, if I'm freshly forged, I may be sweating a little bit after yesterday just because you're just like, man, Hype Unit was the team, like, it qualified really early on, but Freshly Forged kind of struggled to get in when they finally were able to qualify. Yeah. And now there's the conversation of, like, hey, a team with huge names on it not qualifying. I'd definitely be a little quaking in my boots right now, and we'll have to see how they do. And I guess that second set, because they're going to be playing up against Poppies.
Yeah, I think so. That is a pretty big set here today. But this first one is just F6 up against 60. And I think these two teams should have some names. I'll be honest, I'm not nearly as familiar with the just F6 boys as I am with 60. Those guys you should recognize as some formal console guys.
You remember when I said there were 5 teams alone with name recognition?
Yeah.
Just F6 is the 6th team, unfortunately for them. Like, they've got a lot of names. Obviously, we got to see them qualify. That's how I remember them right now, is what they were able to do a couple weeks ago. But 60, you've got Turtle, Reeqo, Dobsonnn, Switch, VaporishCoast. Like, you've got a bunch of console guys coming through who played really well in their qualifying week to get to this group stage. Yeah. And so you kind of expect them to come through. But just F6, like, they were kind of that dark horse. Like, no one knew what to expect out of them. And the fact that they're here and going to be able to potentially put up a fight, I think, is going to be big for them. We're watching them 3 times today, so I expect at least one of them they have to be able to pull out some wins.
I'm expecting so too. Those picks and bans, though, for game number 1 are just about ready. And here's the thing. I know we're saying the Just F6 boys, we don't recognize their names quite as much. The thing is, you get 0 points for name recognition, right? There's no column where that stat shows up or where it matters. These guys could come in and absolutely prove us all wrong here today and get this win. I'm rooting for it, man. I would love to see it.
That's the glory of the open bracket into all of this, is the fact that it's like, yeah, okay, of course, like, you look at Freshly Forged, it's like, if you don't know any of those players, then you're probably doing something wrong, or you're just joining us for Season 7, which is good on you.
Yeah, happy to have you.
But if you don't know anyone on Just F6, it doesn't mean anything about them. Honestly, they could come through and be like, yeah, they've just been chilling since, like, Season 2 or whatever. They've been playing. They've always been masters. They just never made a team. And now they've come through, and maybe they wipe the floor with every single team. You never know what to expect out of a dark horse like that.
Well, I like these bans here so far. Unbot saw a lot of value yesterday, as did Camazotz. Got to get him out of there. But Gormizer, I got to put you back on your soapbox. Yeah, where's the Yemoja ban here at today? Jing Wei first picked overall instead of the Yemoja.
Man, Europe's on something different, huh?
Yeah, this does make some sense to me. There are a lot of teams, especially in North America, like you hear some rumblings about the SPL2, that really value this very safe Jing Wei pick that can build crit quite well.
Now, I know it's not the way you intended it, but the SPL2, when is that happening? Because as far as I know, we still only have the SPL. And so I'm wondering, like, the sequel, like SPL2, I don't know, Pro League Boogaloo, something more clever than that makes people laugh harder. But hey, she's been being hovered. This is going to be the question. If she gets locked in by 60 here, is the Jing Wei worth it, right? That's what this game is essentially going to have to be. And very similar to yesterday, I think it was Camazotz got locked in. It was Camazotz Merlin, where Xbalanque was the first pick, and it's just like, is it worthwhile? Like, did you get anything out of it? And I think that was Data Remembers, like, 0-5 Xbalanque game. The answer was no out of that. Now you've given up this Yemoja. In my mind, it immediately goes to, you need anti-heal. Maybe not as much, actually maybe just as much as you would need to deal with, like, a Vamana. Except the problem is you're not dealing with, like, that one big baby. You're dealing with everybody on the team now.
Yeah, I mean, Yemoja just brings so much to the team. I think she's got great early presence with her ability to cast multiple casts of her ability a lot sooner than a lot of other people early on in the game. Obviously, River's Rebuke is a huge control tool in these fights too, and the heal and the shield on the top of that is pretty strong. So, Yemoja, you're going to get plenty of value out of that.
You know what? I kind of hope the bans stay the same. I want to see Yemoja a lot today because her one can stun towers, and I just want to see it get used. It's never come up when I've been playing her to think I need to stun this tower and stop it. But imagine you're making that saving play. It's like, man, that guy's going to die if he takes one more tower shot. Boom, it's not going to happen. But I like the way they've gone with it, back into it, where Bacchus comes through. Something very similar to yesterday when we saw the Vamana locked in. Bacchus has anti-heal inherently in his kit on his belt, so being able to kind of burp onto the Yemoja or any of the team, get a stun if your drunkometer is high enough, and you can just stop that healing from coming through as strong.
And Merlin should be able to pick up Divine Ruin and keep that applied pretty well, too. So they've already got some good tools on just Step 6 to try and handle this. And obviously the Serqet with her ultimate as well, too, and that anti-healing should be strong. So this is a good draft so far in response to that Yemoja. Maybe a bit surprised to see this Baron Samedi here come out, though. I imagine there's going to be Baron solo at this point based on the rest of this draft. How do you like seeing Baron picked up here?
Honestly, it's the Europe special, right? I think we got to see it, what, twice or 3 times last week?
Baron
a couple of people will run it, and they run it really well. And it's got its pluses and minuses, right? It clears a little bit better than you're going to have out of Warrior because it's a mage, but they are nowhere near as tanky. So if they build it up, it's definitely something that transitions, I think, better into late game if they build that bruiser-ish route for their mage. But it's on shaky footing. If it gets kind of bullied at the very beginning by this Erlang Shen and the Chulainn, then I don't know if it's going to be able to find legs to stand on.
Yeah, it could be a tough matchup. I think very likely that Chulainn will be bullying it around. Just F6 up against 60. Let's start up game 1.
Thank you, Finch and Goran. Way to open the day for myself, Dobsonnnnn, and Aggro, who are calling the game with me today. They talk about the Baron so heavily, and that is, I agree with Gore, such a heavy European special. I think we saw none of it over in NA, and it's something we've consistently seen over the last few weeks here in qualifying. And they've done it well, a 75% win rate on Baron. It's a lot to deal with in that solo lane.
It is. If you can get out of the laning phase and get to the team fighting stage, he's a really, really potent god. He still has those big AoE team heals as long as you're hitting an enemy that really change the course of fights, give you slow immunity if they have enough hysteria. I mean, there's a lot the Baron has going for him, but boy, can it be scary at times when you're playing that Baron. No mobility whatsoever in the kit. And it takes a little bit to get tanky enough to be able to withstand what you're going to face in that solo lane.
That's true, and so much of what we've seen out of the solo lane is you just kind of leave them on an island and they sit there and farm through the first however many minutes of the game. So I almost wonder if that lack of mobility from the Baron will maybe open up that short lane to more ganks.
I think that it certainly can, and Erlang Shen is a god that really punishes immobile gods pretty well already because of his the amount of CC that he has. You can use that route from a distance, and if you don't have a way to get out of it, you're stuck there until he gets close to you, and then he taunts you, and then he knocks you up, and you're pretty much dead from that position no matter what. It's a matter of if those roots can turtle can land as well once he transforms.
Well, that's an early shell usage there from Switch, and you know we spent a lot of camera time in this long lane. It is the Vulcan that they send down there to try to go toe-to-toe with this Bacchus and the Jing Wei. Going to pair that with Switch on the Yemoja. That means they're going to send the Ullr to that mid lane. You know, he's been poked out a good bit, ran, you know, heavier in the pots to keep himself sustained in that lane, but a kind of return to some mages going down into that long lane. But they have been bullied consistently in this early game.
And that's not what you expect when you've got a Yemoja on your side. Yemoja usually so good at providing kill pressure. Vulcan just not the god to do it with. And here's a gank onto Solo, but it's not the Baron getting ganked. It's the Baron getting help. And Soto's actually going to grab first blood. And this is where Baron can get past that weak part of the earlier game and end up making a huge impact. Get a little bit of help for himself. Nice steal by Dobsonnn on that purple buff. And now Baron is in a position where he's not in nearly as much danger because he can just continually poke Turtle out.
Yeah, Turtle's going to have to come back to lane. And does that change kind of how you have to itemize if you're Turtle? So often, you know, you build into one of the two shields. If you're in that solo lane, usually a physical versus physical matchup.
Yep.
Do you have to pivot into more of that magical defense earlier on?
Yeah, I think you do because Baron's poke potential is really good, and he's going to get a lot of CDR pretty early between what I imagine will be cooldown boots and then blue buff. That gives you 20% right away. And so it's pretty tough to stay in lane, especially as Chulainn, a god that doesn't have any innate sustain built into the kit. I think that you go for Runic pretty early, and it looks like he's doing that. He's got the Enchanted Buckler early on. That's going to turn from boots into a Runic shield pretty early on, and then he's going to be in a much better position. But by that time, who knows how much damage CaptainOti is going to have online.
Well, a bit of a difference as well, relic-wise. That Looks like that's purification beads, although the timer, I can't quite see through it right there. It might be.
Yeah, I agree.
It is purification beads.
Yeah,
so he did pick up beads and had to burn that early in on the gank, but that opens things up for Captain, elected to go for the teleport. That could be a big difference maker there as well.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, Baron ult is something that if you don't have CC immunity up, it's pretty easy to pull someone in and immediately get them killed for it, pull them under tower. But Chulainn has 2 forms of CC immunity. As long as he's using his transformations well, you can ult in human form and then ult again in rage form.
Sure.
Little surprised to not see him go for the teleport, but I mean, I guess in theory it keeps you much safer, but to take that death early, use the beads anyways, and then get poked out again because CaptainOti used his ult as soon as he hit 5, as he should, knowing your beads are down and you're not 5 for CC immunity, that forces Turtle out of lane again, and that's a lot of farm that's getting lost underneath this tower. I mean, check out the XP per minute charts on the left side of your screen. Oti's up 100 XP per minute.
Yeah, where is he? Oh, there he is. All the way down towards the bottom, just next to the Vulcan, who's also been poked out. Dobsonnn getting ganked here in the mid lane. SCC is going to move forward, stunned up. And that's the Merlin getting his first blood in this game for just F6. Early impact from the Serqet.
Really good job by SCC, both in solo and in mid now. You know Dobsonn's going to want to play up. You know he also wants to rush that Transcendence, so doesn't have a whole lot of mobility. At the time, certainly not able to match that of Serqet. And this is what Serqet jungle is really supposed to do. Get you ahead early because your ganks are nearly guaranteed basically everywhere you go with the amount of CC and damage that she has alone. And then you add in the displacement of that last breath. It's very difficult to get away a lot of times for a lot of these carries. So we saw Mollusk, I believe, play Serqet yesterday, and it just didn't have that early impact that I think you're oftentimes looking for from that Serqet. I like the way SCC's playing it so far.
And we sort of briefly touched just prior to that gank, kind of the difference between the beads and the teleport. It's, yeah, it keeps you maybe safe from death, safer rather, because you still die with it anyway. But that XP lead is just growing so exponentially here at this point. I mean, 1,700 total in the game, gold-wise as well, about the same amount. Most of that, I would say, is in that solo lane, a good bit maybe in the mid lane. Reeqo is going to burn his beads and get himself out to safety. So, you know, in some metas where we've seen a lot of blinks picked up, sometimes 3 on either side. Lots of purification beads prioritized here, but VaporishCoast turns around the damage. You might be behind on the Vulcan, but your burst potential is still there.
That was really well played by Coast, but kind of gifted to him by Rottwen. That's not the first time that Rottwen's had a pretty ambitious belly flop. It didn't get him punished at level 2 when he blinked in and went forward under the tower, but right there he gets punished pretty quickly. Coast still loses the beads, but I feel like you should just take the beads and take your win in that position. Getting Coast that kill is huge.
It feels like a bit of a lifeline down there in that long lane maybe for VaporishCoast, who have been blinked out a good bit. Ultimate's kind of exchanged up here in the solo lane. This Baron does have plenty of damage and might have just enough once those cooldowns are back, but not back soon enough, and Turtle is luckily able to retreat back beneath his tier 1, but now you're really starting to see some of that discrepancy where so often solo lane is just kind of poking back and forth. This time there's real kill potential there.
And Turtle, again, has to go back to base and miss another wave of XP and gold to the tower. He'll probably get there for the Archer's XP, but probably not a whole lot of gold for him. The idea to go aggressive with the transform is kind of inherent for Chulainn. It's built into you, but when you're this far behind in your build, it's tough to really leverage that. And XP as well ends up being a really, really big deal. Net worth charts, Turtle all the way at the bottom. CaptainOti near the top. He's up 700, 800 gold in the solo lane. That's a substantial amount. And remember, CaptainOti didn't even get the first blood bounty. He got the assist on that first blood. Didn't even get the kill. He'd be up over 1,000 by himself if he had been the one to get the last hit.
And you kind of look at the net worth as well for VaporishCoast versus Totti, where so often in that early game it had been the Jing who had found most of the poke and most of the farm there, but a kill maybe pulls him a little bit back closer to even. Ultimate use, there is SCC lurking over in the jungle, locks him down, and that's a dead Turtle one more time. You gotta walk back to lane real slow this time with their second death in the back pocket.
Yeah, that's a really well-played gank by CaptainOti. That's how you use that Baron ult. The best Baron players know how to maximize the amount of time that you're pulling them in versus when you get the stun. Am I stunning the right person? Right there, you only have one option to stun, but he does it perfectly. gets the CC immunity out from Turtle, guarantees the stun, and as much damage as he can from the ultimate at the same time.
You can tell how confident Oti is feeling here, and for good reason. They get first tower in this game, 8.5 minutes in. The gold lead is extended to about 2,500 or so, 2.6K to be exact, and 3,000 now is where that XP is, and that's the big metric here. I mean, you never want to be losing in gold anyway, but when the XP is this discrepant, you're having a real tough time.
And it's not even just in the solo lane. In fact, it's better in the solo lane than it is in mid, because Dobsonnn is 2 levels down to RemagDoku right now, which is not where you want your Ullr to be. Having Ullr be behind 2 levels, you feel like you're in a 5v4. Ullr is just not a god that performs well when behind. There are gods like Hun Bats. There are gods that just kind of do well enough when behind, because they just have good kits that synergize even without a whole lot of damage. Ullr's really not one of them. Sure, you have the Axe Stun, but if he's not insta-killing you off of it, he's not that scary.
Gold Fury started up here for just F6, which is maybe going to move into range. Is some secure potential from that Vulcan. It drops down. He gets the kill. Gold Fury still pulled here. SCC has fallen. Gold Fury is now starting to regenerate health, so both teams pull off to the side. A great start here from 60. If you're able to disengage without losing much more, just F6 are going to do just that. They are somewhat low. Dobsonnn is lurking around the right-hand side of this red buff, but the re-engage from Rottwen is there. Doesn't find the belly flop. Ultimate popped out from Oti this time, and it isn't going to find a stun this time around. Disengage now from Reeqo, but that's an airstrike up and aggressive. Switch ends up falling on the right-hand side of this fight. Totti suddenly collapsed on by 3 members of 60. The final shot is there. Suddenly this Ullr is on the board with his first kill.
That's huge for Dobsonnn to get something, but that play by Coast on the Gold Fury, it's just a lack of communication by just F6. I don't know what went wrong there, but I know that they didn't reset gold with that Vulcan ult coming in, and they paid for it dearly.
SCC maybe looking for a little bit extra here, grabs the stuns, gonna dash right back through. Dobsonnn just needs one more tick, and it's there. SCC drops the Ullr after a kill, a saving grace, a lifeline even for Dobsonnn in that mid lane. He's ending up falling for his 2nd time this game. Now it's a 3-1-1 Serqet.
And this is a really good example of how you transition a lead out of a side lane and bring it to the rest of your team. Now, it doesn't work out as well as just F6 would have liked. A little bit of a sloppy engagement by Gold Fury that doesn't go their way. But CaptainOti knows that he's so far ahead that he can afford to give up 5 waves, basically, on that right-hand side. He gives up multiple waves and the tower, and is still ahead of Turtle. Even though, I mean, I know he got an assist or whatever, but overall, CaptainOti gives up a lot in that moment and allows Turtle to catch up a little bit. And Turtle does the right thing. He has to stay in lane. He's worthless in that team fight. He just doesn't do enough with his farm level. At least he's able to catch up a little bit. I think both solo laners do the right thing in that moment, but when you're asking yourself, you know, oh, I'm crushing it in solo, but the rest of my team isn't as far ahead as me, that's the way you get them as far ahead as you.
Rottwen's going to look for the belly flop here just to the left-hand side of this mid-tier 1 tower and doesn't catch much for it. Oti this time, though, he's going to be the one getting ganked. He is on the back pedal. Immobility, maybe biting Baron this time. Grabs 1 stun with his ultimate and locks down Turtle. Looks like the disengage may be there, but Reeqo reverses, locks down Oti. There is some assistance coming in from just F6, though. That's the bash right on through from Turtle, grabs the kill. Not before RemagDoku answers back with one onto Reeqo. It's a 1-for-1 as we stand. No tier 1 tower to retreat behind. They will get out safely. Thought about a Gold Fury. We do stand at a 1-for-1.
Man, that's exactly what we should have seen happen to the Baron Samedi from minute 1. It's just you walk over and you Erlang pin him, and he has to blow his whole kit just to try and stay alive in that moment. Eventually he does die, but buys enough time for the rest of the boys to get over there. But that's really because of the lead that he had, that he's able to live that long. If that were earlier on in the game, that would have gone much more easily in favor of 60. But with the lead that he had, I should say, not has.
Yeah, it's gone.
He's now about a level down to Turtle. That's what happens. These minion waves grow in XP and gold very, very quickly. So if you take a couple deaths back to back or forced out of lane a couple times, you can lose your lead fairly quickly.
Yeah, look at that XP chart. 9.5 minutes. It was over 2,000, and now call it just about even with 180 technically in favor for 60. That's what it seemed like. It almost seemed like they were losing in a lot of these lanes, a lot of these situations. VaporishCoast comes to mind. But at least in that lane, they played it safe enough. He was able to rotate through, find a couple kills, maybe over-aggression from Rottwen here and there. but they've kind of taken these lifelines here and there and kept themselves in the game.
It's been impressive, and Coast deserves a ton of credit for that. He's made 2 big plays where he turns around the aggression from Rottwen and kills him, gets himself on the board, and then the Gold Fury defense by Coast. They don't steal it, but they nearly did. Coast has had a really good game, and that's no surprise to me. I mean, if you're familiar with any of these names on 60 at all, you've watched some Smite Console League in the past, and VaporishCoast was the guy over there on the console. He was the premier European ADC on the sticks for a long time, and now his foray into the Smite Challenger circuit, or attempting to make it into the Smite Challenger circuit at the very least, is one that I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in.
Hey, you've made it to the group stages. Now you have to make it into the SCC proper. There's going to be a lot of close games here this week. I like the way Gormizer kind of prefaced the whole day, is that, you know, you can make an argument for all 6 teams in this group to maybe qualify through. So I expect a lot of close Smite here throughout the day. Pivoting closer maybe to this Pyromancer, but CaptainOti was just looking for a route there and won't end up finding much. Both teams have kind of positioned themselves near this Gold Fury, but neither one has really made that full-blown aggression, except for the one that VaporishCoast was able to turn around.
Yeah, this is one of those moments where both teams kind of realize, okay, just F6 probably realizing, you know, we're not as far ahead as we thought. We really thought we had this game in the bag, and then we make a mistake, and now 60's right back in it. And 60's realizing that they don't have to be too scared. They're right in it.
Oh, Oti, I don't think he escaped this one alive. You get some healing and maybe lock one down, retreats back almost, but not enough. Stunned up is Reeqo here, so at least you get a 1-for-1 trade, but Oti falls for his 2nd time this game, and Turtle finds another kill. So whereas early game he was 0-2-0, he's now found a couple of kills, and you call him in the lead.
That is. It's kind of crazy. Now, CaptainOti still doing better in net worth, but now only up about 300 gold, so not even that much for him either. This was the game plan from minute 1. We've got Erlang, Chulainn. How does Baron get that much of a lead in the first place? It's because SCC does a good job of camping his lane. Turtle probably doesn't have the best laning phase of his life, and Reeqo was a little bit too preoccupied elsewhere on the map to give him some assistance. But now we're where we expected to be, a slight lead for Chulainn and XP, but I think that CaptainOti has already gotten a little bit of momentum, feeling like he's going to be able to do some good things in these team fights, and that's where you expect Baron to be better anyways, is once you start grouping up as 5.
We haven't had a great opportunity to kind of dive into the Guardian builds just yet. Gauntlet of Thebes, I think, tends to be that first item right after boots. But Switch has kind of foregone that. You know, Yemoja maybe a slightly different style of playing Guardian, so maybe not super surprising that she hasn't gone for it.
Right, it's all about getting as much Omi as you can, as fast as you can. That's a huge deal for Yemoja. And then the Talisman of Energy is an interesting one. It's good HP, some decent magical protection, and a passive that's probably a little bit undervalued. You get some really, really solid movement speed and attack speed, which matters a lot for Erlang, Shen, and even a little bit for Chulainn. I don't mind it at all.
Finally a commitment to Gold Fury here. VaporishCoast is in range. He played Spoiler last time. Switch is going to throw up the walls. Down comes crashing, some damage. Switch falls, though, to SCC, and Totti's going to be able to pull his way out of this one. So now you're missing Yemoja in this fight. It's a big difference maker as CaptainOti hangs in the wings.
That was the only good ult Switch has had all game. It's just unfortunate that there was no one else there to help him. Coast had the right idea, toss the ultimate from max range to get as much damage as we can, but Vulcan is just not that potent of a god in my mind right now. He just does, the numbers just don't add up to me to make him a top tier contender, and that's kind of one of the reasons why you have this really high execution ultimate. It's a difficult ult to get full value out of. That is the dream scenario for Coast, and at half health's a mage. That's just not enough. You can half health a mage with a lot of straight up abilities at this point.
Right. It seems like just F6 have been kind of opening the door for VaporishCoast. Let's start up this Gold Fury. We're going to be grouped up very close. Maybe the ultimate is able to drop down for some good damage and miss the mark that time. Granted, you can't find a free kill for it every single time, but they were able to, 60 were able to grab the oracles and have some deep ward coverage. But one more time, just F6 are going to pull out this Gold Fury, switch back in the fight. Ultimate still available for both sides as now RemagDoku is going to flicker his way backwards. Baron up into the ultimate is going to pull a couple in, and Totti in the back line is going to start pouring out some damage as well. Turtle's got some good zoning going on. Oti locked down here, but is able to turn tail and get himself out of this one. Turtle wants a little bit more, though. Is the blink on through? Yes, it is. Into the back line. Reeqo has found a couple. Airstrike to get Jing way out alive, but Rottwen, he's left in the fire. Turtle grabs himself the kill. That's 1 for 60 here in this fight. As the tier 2 tower, maybe his home base for RemagDoku, tries to burn away, but Dobsonnn grabs the second kill in this fight for 60. CaptainOti is able to rejoin, though, gets the kill onto VaporishCoast. Dobsonnn ticked away. Totti now suddenly feeling aggressive. They have the numbers, but the health bar is not on their side.
Just a bit of an overextension here by 60. They get a fight that's going very well for them. A really, really good blink initiation from Reeqo after Turtle does a great job keeping everyone's attention on him. And then we start diving tier 2 towers, and that's just always going to be a recipe for disaster. The rest of the team a little bit too healthy, and now this might be a Gold Fury.
Getting chipped away, only about 1,000 health there. Oti is playing zone right now. Dobsonnn has to jump himself out. That's another Baron Samedi ultimate. Might even be able to get a kill for it. Dobsonnn a little bit too close, so it's Gold Fury and a kill on the back end of what previously was a good fight for 60.
Yo, Dobsonn's got some beef with Switch. At least I would if I were in Dobsonn's shoes. Switch, a half HP tank, way, way healthier than me. Certainly able to tank that Baron ult. You got to do the get down Mr. President line and jump in front of that ultimate and stop it so that Dobsonnn ends up surviving. CaptainOti clearly very comfortable on this Baron pick. He's played it really, really well so far. He's able to find that nicely.
And Totti suddenly a little bit nervous here. Does not have the airstrike to get away from that one, and Reeqo takes a free kill near that left side purple buff. So maybe a silver lining there. You lose Dobsonnn. This Erlang Shen, he's starting to hurt.
He is, and that's not normally what you think of when you think of Erlang, like late game. It's usually an early to mid game monster, but Reeqo's build really lends itself to doing good work at this point.
Turtle's got a few kills under his belt, and suddenly he's starting to feel a little bit more confident for it. Doku is going to get a little bit of healing. River's Rebuke separates this fight, and Oti is locked into it. Baron Samedi locks down Turtle here. Is there enough damage to finish him off?
Oh, yeah.
There should be, and SCC gets the final tick. Down goes Chulainn, but VaporishCoast has maybe found himself a free tier 1 tower on the left side.
Yeah, he'll get this one for sure, but it's going to take him a little bit. He's a Vulcan, not a traditional ADC. Turtle, you called it, maybe feeling himself a little bit too much, but you see the level to which Chulainn can dominate in those moments when he has enough farm to actually do things. He's gotten a little bit and immediately forces back Doku. Doku just doesn't have enough pen. That would be the thing for me is if I'm in Merlin's shoes and I just get ran down and nearly soloed by this Chulainn in a 1v3, I'm thinking I just need more damage to be able to kill him. He doesn't have that much HP to where Soul Reaver's really doing that much great work for me. So I'm looking for a 20% pen option as fast as I can. Likely going to be a Charon's coin with that restored artifacts.
Do you like what you've seen out of that Erlang Shen build so far? I think it was a stone cutting sword into a little bit of attack speed. I guess normally, maybe not normally, but we often see him in that solo lane, builds a little bit of hybrid tankiness, but the damage potential is certainly there.
Yeah, I mean, we had a whole year plus where Erlang was an S-tier jungler and support at the exact same time, can kind of do it all. This build lets him be a true assassin and just knock you down with those auto attacks really, really quickly. Crusher, great on the god. He procs it not that often as far as the damage from Crusher goes, but flat pen, attack speed, power is everything he wants, especially with this build. Stone Cutting Sword basically gives him some tankiness by stripping your procs away from you, so it's the best of both worlds. And then Atalantas make sure that you're not getting away from him no matter what.
Nothing else, just F6 have great objective burn thanks to that Merlin in the mid lane, and they're going to pull themselves and take themselves a Pyromancer. So still, despite some sloppy fighting over near that Gold Fury for both teams, to be fair, you have about a 2,500 gold lead 21 minutes into this game. Couple people starting to knock on the door of that level 20 mark, but XP, I mean, 900 XP is not that massive in the grand scheme of things, and it's going to shrink up here and there. So the gold lead, the big differential here for just F6.
Absolutely, and the gold lead is also not that big of a deal for 60. I mean, they're not behind full items at this point. I mean, that's 3,000 gold spread across an entire team. That's not going to be enough to finish a full tier 3 item ahead of anybody else. It should make sure that just F6 has good ward coverage. That's usually, before you get like 5,000 gold leads, it's really just in your, maybe I've got an extra tier 1 item and we have better wards. And that's really what it's about for these teams. Just F6 doesn't seem to have that quite yet, but that's where they should be investing their gold lead.
We have seen a lot worse a lot earlier on this week, and,
oh, yes.
and up to this point in qualifiers. Turtle is going to tremble a couple. underneath this tier 2 tower. 60, you can see them rotating towards the tier 2 tower as well, hanging near this blue buff, locked down, but that's Rottwen getting aggressive here, drops his ultimate, he's stunned up, Switch gets knocked back, pulled back in towards Baron, that's a dead Yemoja. Totti will take that 7 days of the week, Switch goes down. That's a couple ultimates burnt as well from 60 as they're on the back pedal.
And Switch never even got that ultimate off. You got to at least do something in that moment, but ends up kind of getting caught a little bit low on Omi. Think he had enough for the 3 to try and get himself out, but I don't think that would have been enough distance anyways with how much hysteria he had built up. He was getting pulled in very, very quickly. Just a bit of an overextension. Switch, I mean, look, Yemoja, certainly one of the best gods in the game.
Yeah.
Switch has not impressed me on it so far.
Sotos is going to try to impress you here with maybe a kill onto Reeqo, but unimpressed aggro will remain as Reeqo is able to move his way out. Rottwen potentially a bit caught out here. There is some good damage from VaporishCoast, but that's a tanky enough Bacchus with those extra procs that he's going to waddle his way back out to safety. It's been, I mean, Sotos, he's been effective early. He kept a lot of those leads going from the early game into the mid game, and now he sits at 6-1-4. A lot of the damage and a lot of the setup maybe rolls through that Serqet.
I agree. I think he's had a great game so far, but look at this. What a call by 60. This is up to CaptainOti to sniff this one out, and even then, he's going to have to make an incredible play to steal it.
Something smells like it's wrong. CaptainOti senses that. Rivers rebuke down. CaptainOti is not able to secure the FG this time and might even lose his life for it. A little bit more damage. VaporishCoast finds the kill. Now 60, 5 members strong are going to start to roll through this right side jungle. And I think Just F6 is going to try to disengage. Rottwen, he's going to have none of that, though. Dobsonnn finds the second kill and the FG over to 60.
That's huge. Whoever made that call just got MVP for the set, because 60 is in a great position now in what was a very, very close game. They were frankly a little bit behind, but doing okay in team fights. That play is absolutely massive to sneak away a Fire Giant.
Well, Soto sneaks away one more kill. Turtle falls down, but it's right side Phoenix under attack. And it's really only Totti here that's in range. A couple rotating from the mid lane. Maybe going to flank around the backside of 60. Airstrike aggressively. Down they swoop. Dobsonnn, the target of most of the damage here, but Merlin is going to do his best to turn some around. Doku, he finds one as well. Reeqo, he's in the back line, but Totti's grabbed himself the double kill. Yeah, you get yourself the Merlin, but at what cost? The dashes through from Sotos. And Reeqo is going to try to get himself out of this one as well. 4 down from 60, could be 5. Stun is not in, beads used from Reeqo. He's going to dash himself out, but you lose 4 members, only 1 Fire Giant buff remains.
Yeah, that's not exactly where you want to use that Fire Giant. I think 60 just played it a little bit too fast and loose there. It's honestly understandable.
They were feeling good.
They were feeling good. You get some momentum. These guys have played together for a while, at least in the case of Switch, Dobsonnn, and Coast. They're feeling it. They're gassing each other up, and they don't back to spend any gold. They don't go for the Primal Fury. There's towers on the map they could have taken. And yes, that Fire Giant play is massive, but you end up basically a little bit better than where you were. You've got right side Phoenix down, which is an advantage for sure, but it's not as much as I think they could have gotten off that Fire Giant. They could have found themselves up 4,000 or 5,000 gold maybe without a Phoenix, and you could argue that the Phoenix is worth more than that, but I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that line of thinking. I think that 60 should have played it slower.
Massive becomes gargantuan if you're able to get the FG and the kill, and then maybe back, regroup, get yourself some other permanent objectives on this map, but instead, a bit too aggressive on that right side. Phoenix, I think great rotations from Just F6 around the backside of the 3 members of 60 that were still there trying to fight. So you do still have Fire Giant buff on Reeqo, if nothing else. That's a Primal Fury secured here from Just F6, so it's not necessarily the largest and scariest Fire Giant push that you'll see. Right side Phoenix did end up falling, so at least another thing in 60's side.
Now they're going to try and group up and get this tier 2 on the left-hand side, but Reeqo a little bit delayed on coming in. He might be able to find an excellent flank, kind of a la what Just F6 did on the right-hand Phoenix.
3 members of 60. Group into 4, but that's the jump over the wall for Rottwen. This tier 2 tower is about half HP. Could see a jungler 1v1 here. Sotos looks like he's fine taking that fight. I'm not sure he's happy about it after the end of it. Rivers rebuke as well as VaporishCoast drops the Vulcan ultimate there. Half health still on this tier 2 tower. Turtle, he's gonna stumble out a few, and health bar still melting from 60. So good defense here from Just F6 underneath their tier 2.
They've done a good job, but Reeqo's done a really good job of making sure that they get the tier 2 in mid. He forces out Sotos and then leaves his team and is able to rotate over and provide enough pressure just mentally on Just F6. They have to know that this Erlang Shen can come around the back, and even without his ultimate, he still has bees, he still has blink, he's still got plenty of CC. Yes, he doesn't have the taunt, but he still has a ranged root and a knockup. So he's going to do just fine when it comes to the team fight. Reeqo's had an impressive game so far in this Erlang Shen. Scoreline not nearly as pretty as that of Sotos. It took him a little bit longer to kind of get the ball rolling, but he's had nearly the same level of impact by my money.
Well, the lowly Fire Giant buff that was on Reeqo just falls off, which means about 45 seconds or so until the next one respawns. And I agree, you get the sense that that is going to be the next large objectives that these two teams start to pivot themselves around. I don't think Just F6 is going to be ready to give this one up for free.
No, I don't think so either. And even though Sotos is going to be here for the Pyromancer pull, this should be a reset real quick and buy what you need. With that Pyromancer buff, it makes it easier to reset here with less fear. But it's still a little bit scary knowing Fire Giant is about to spawn pretty soon. This could give Just F6 a little bit of more vision control than what 60 would like.
Yeah, can we get speedy enough back to the FG is the question. And I think well played by 60, kind of keeping a three-man presence around that Fire Giant, but not overextending. Things get dangerous even though they're quick coming back from base. If you lose one of the last 3 defending members on the FG for 60, things become a little bit more difficult. Reeqo may just move himself down this mid lane and let the rest of the team kind of skirmish around the Fire Giant.
I like this. There's no one on Just F6 that can 1v1 this Erlang Shen, and he can get this Phoenix pretty cleanly. So it's a matter of if 60 can put enough pressure on the team fight that Reeqo can't have the team collapse behind him, then this fight looks really good for them.
See how much respect he's demanding. 2 turn back to deal with the Erlang Shen. River's Rebuke up from Switch. Sotos, I'm not sure you win this engagement. Reeqo, he agrees with me. RemagDoku, though, gets the kill. On to the Yemoja. Just F6 is able to complete the FG. 5 members strong, 1 member down from 60 here. Airstrike aggressively. VaporishCoast, you're squishy, and Totti thanks you for it. Down goes the Vulcan. 2 members down from 60. Could be worse here. Turtle is able to stagger out a few. Tier 2 tower will be a bit of a safe haven. Sotos elsewhere on the map does end up winning the 1v1 up against Reeqo. And now 5 members with FG, and it's only Dobsonnn left alive.
That's backbreaking. That might be game here, Dave. They don't have a wave, which is the only thing that's making me think maybe it won't be, but they've got some pretty good respawn timers. Switch zone's way too far out and is able to get no help. The rest of 60 thinks, okay, we can burn fire without him here, but you don't have Reeqo or Switch with you. It's just those 3 members, and Rottwen jumps in and ends up stealing FG with the Intoxicate. That is tough. That's a tough play to lose. I understand the thought process that we have Vulcan ult that should be able to secure it, but Switch is a traditional hunter player. How much Vulcan has he really played? That Vulcan Secure is some of the best in the game because you actually get to launch your ultimate and then 3-1 all at the same time. The damage lands all at the same time, and that's like 3,500 damage on all at once. But it's a weird timing, and it's not easy to execute unless you played a lot of Vulcan. I just don't. Coast must have missed it. It's the only way they lose that fire.
There's maybe some poetic justice that it looked like 60 started the F6 vote there, but didn't go through. So still a chance to defend. There are still 2 tier 2 towers on the map that I'm not sure you go for broke defending those. I think Phoenixes are going to be a much safer haven. Primal Fury is up here for Just F6 to snag themselves. And that's a big flip in the game. It really felt. Huge. It's kind of that intangible. It felt like 60 were just sort of in control, and I guess the XP and gold differential chart would agree with me. Massive spike just a few moments ago. It seems like this is just F6's game to lose.
I completely agree. And 60 really had a lot of momentum. Reeqo is able to force Sotos out in the 1v1 in mid, nearly kills him. Sotos backs, then kills Reeqo. That's a tough position to be in, no doubt about it.
Now it's the left side Phoenix that is maybe being looked at here by Just F6. Maybe a last-ditch effort from 60. Sotos, I figured Reeqo was just going to free and clear win that 1v1 in the mid lane, but didn't happen this time. That's a big knock-up from Turtle. Maybe starts off this fight well. Just F6, they have to move themselves back here, but then they re-engage at the proper time. Turtle and Switch fall. That's Rottwen getting the kill on the enemy Guardian. 3 members left defending. Left side Phoenix going down. they might have the damage and the numbers to finish this game.
This should be game, Dave. I don't even know if I'd waste my time with mid-tier 2 and Phoenix because you've got not a lot of pressure on that right-hand side quite yet. Maybe this is the right call because just F6 just didn't do a good enough job pushing up those fire waves on the right-hand side. If someone had done their due diligence and pushed that wave as they were pushing on the left, this could have been game right here, but without that wave on right, it might be a bit too risky.
Still 30 seconds, though, on both of those death timers from 60. Could be a free, maybe with a small price tag, middle lane Phoenix here. If they're able to get any picks on the end of it, SCC wants a little bit extra. VaporishCoast dashed on, but uses the Aegis to get himself out alive. Titan under attack, 3 Phoenixes down, just F6. Maybe waiting for those minion waves to crash in. 5 seconds remaining on both of the final 2 respawns. Titan in the waiting arms of just F6 to move in. Here's your engagement. 60 are gonna try to save this game, but the Titan melts too quickly, and just F6, they take game 1.
Look, I mean, just a couple execution errors by 60 in the late game, but you gotta give credit where it's due to just F6. They had control of that game early on. It was really just a sneaky fire call by 60 that got them back into it, but I think that the execution has to be better at a macro level from 60 going forward. Also, if you're gonna get Yemoja, it's got to do more than that. Switch just was not impactful enough. When you get arguably the best god in the game, it's got to have a bigger impact than that. I just want to see a different draft in general from 60. I didn't like the Vulcan very much, and the Yemoja just didn't do a whole lot.
Yeah, swap around some lanes there, small leads going back and forth. It was close, but a couple FGs, that secures just F6 game number 1. We're going to send it back to Finch and Gore to break this one down.
Well, just F6 were in control early, and despite that sneaky fire giant from 60, they are the ones that end up cleaning that win up. And honestly, it didn't look like it for a second they'd be able to do it, but a great play. And I don't know, man, I think Agger's being a little bit too polite at Gore. Switch has got to do way better than that. We have watched this dude play now for a couple of years in the console league. He's definitely better than that. That's not enough on one of the best gods in the game.
Yeah, when you get Yemoja, you expect. I expected a lot. He's 0-6. I'm interested to see what his healing numbers are going to be because, like, there's maybe something underlying that was working well for them. I also think that he, like, whether you want to argue it played for them or against them, I think there's something to be said that just F6 countered it really well. They recognized how big of a threat it was going to be. They looked into the anti-heal in their draft. They looked into targeting him immediately in a lot of these fights. And there were certain moments where, you know what, Switch just got caught out. Maybe he was pulled out, thankfully, because of SCC being able to, like, isolate him. And he never got his feet on the ground. He was never able to run because he never got to learn to walk on this Yemoja.
No, you're right, man. And I want to give plenty of credit because I'm going to give 60 a hard time here for sure during this breakdown. But I want to give plenty of credit to F6 as well. Adi on this Baron Samedi kind of ran the solo lane throughout the early game too. Finally, I think like 17 minutes in, some ganks started to come his way to slow him down. But look at where Switch is here in this fight. You can barely see anyone else with the map being see-through from anyone else from his team. He's just too far forward. But I want to give credit to Adi and SCC as well. I think they played really, really well throughout the early game.
All right, so I just want to highlight that. That slow motion was perfect. In real time, that happens in 0.1 second. Like you don't even, like, the damage in your human brain is the exact same numbers. Like, you just see them happen simultaneously. The fact that Bacchus was able to hit that just before that Earthshaker connected onto the Fire Giant is huge for them. And it's one of those things, because it was even confusing to watch, where it's just like, no, he used it around there. Maybe he missed. Like, how do you miss an ultimate that covers half the map, or at least what it feels like with Vulcan? And it just feels like a steal like that means a lot. I think it isn't necessarily the, well, it is the game ender, right? I think if it goes the way of 60, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, because we already saw one go their way and they played it too aggressive and ended up kind of losing it. I think there's a couple of moments from 60 where if they slow down that first Fire Giant, they get that Phoenix, or they just back off and go for some other towers, it goes differently. And I think if that Bacchus isn't in the right spot, right time, with a really perfectly timed ult, then I don't think they see an F6 win as fast. I still think they can close it out, though.
I still think they get the win, but maybe, as you said, not as easily. Let's
about
get
10 more minutes
for game number 2. There's some stuff now, if you're on 60, to try and take care of. I do think that as much as I'm giving SCC some credit, he actually wasn't farming all that well. He did a great job getting tons of kills, but he was still a couple XP levels behind throughout the game. That was a bit surprising to me. So there's something to clean up on the side of just F6. 2's moving to game number 2. We'll see which one of those two come better prepared in this match.
Hello?
Cupid. Gotta go.
I mean, he's there. You know what? I've been actually spending the last, like, 2 weeks thinking, what's a way to make Cupid, like, better? And it's one of those things. I love playing Cupid. I have a lot of fun playing him in my games as well, and, like, what he can do. But at the same time, it's always like, what will make him so that next pro team, like, that you see Zapman playing him in the Pro League regularly. Like, what can you do to get that happening?
Didn't counter his ult incredibly easily. That would help a lot.
Well, at one point I was like, man, what if you changed it so that full heart stacks is like ult was a stun instead of just a doubled mez?
That I can't just sprint out of easily.
And I said that out loud, and Hindu is just like, you have a cripple going into a stun. I am banning you from Gandazan. And I'm like, okay, that's fair enough. You know what? You're right there. But having him banned out, like, it's one of those things. Something about Just F6. Potentially they have something good. Maybe it counters something 60 are planning. But at the same time, it gives you a hands-down open pick for you to grab so they get that Persephone for free.
They do, and this is a good look, too, because Dobsonnn struggled on this Ullr last game, right? You do not pick Ullr. You don't pick anything to be down 2 levels, right? But especially not Ullr. You pick him in order to establish pressure, and you should be building up a lead to kind of make up for some of his drop-off, a little bit of a drop-off in the late game. So this Persephone, I think, should put him in a better spot. They're going to pair that with the Xbalanque and the Chulainn, try and get some pressure in solo. I don't know that I was super impressed by Turtle's Chulainn play either last game. Some really weird rage transformations, but put him back on it because it's a strong
The Baron really worked well against him. I was actually surprised with how incredible that was able to work it out. And like you said, like ganks to the lane were very effective against Baron. They just happened about 10, 15 minutes too late compared to where they should have. They could have shut him down early on. And, well, this time they're going to shut him down in the earliest fashion. They're not even going to let him get into the game.
Banning him out is a good way to do that. Looks like the Yemoja is going to be banned this time, too, so we don't have to have any objections to how that one ends up getting played. Merlin comes back in. Obviously, this one makes a whole lot of sense, but I'm wondering where 60 is going to end up going to the jungle. Unbox and Dodgy banned, and now the Thor picked.
All right, I'm going to throw this out there. I don't want the Thor. I actually think a Wheelish would be nice. I think she synergizes really well with the rest of the team, and I think it'd be fun to see her. I don't.
You would have liked it for just F6.
Yeah, for just F6. I think it would just slot in really well. I think Thor is going to give a lot more safe play than what you're going to have. A Wheelish is definitely going to be, one, stylized. You kind of have to build around her to not make her work, but to make her function at the highest level. But Thor is going to be able to say, like, hey, I dunk. Like, I don't need you to knock someone up for me. I'm just going to stun him myself. Like, he'll do it all on his own. I just think she could fit in, and I like seeing her in, variety, spice of life.
Well, 60 locks in some aggression with their last 3 picks. I got to imagine this is Achilles support and then set jungle here from 60 because they are looking to just roll over just F6. Only problem is, man, when you're trying to go into Bacchus and Vamana, that is not the easiest thing to do. Those guys can slow down aggression well.
I'm curious to see what Reeqo's going to do because I think his presence on the map is going to determine, well, how much that Bacchus and Vamana are able to do, right? Yep. If Vamana gets off early, if we see this going the same way Baron did, then I think Just F6 are going to be very happy with this game.
Yeah, there's not going to be any backline peel as if you could peel Vamana anyway, huh? Game number 2 between 60 and Just F6. Let's get it started.
Well, it seems like a composition from 60 that is going to want to be aggressive and push into you. Maybe a composition from Just F6 that is going to be good at absorbing and turning around some of that pressure. I agree with some of what Gore and Finch were saying to kind of close off the desk there. We saw Oti on that Baron get such a lead in the previous game, and what he did with it, neither here nor there. But we have seen, I think, different shades of this Vamana. A fed one who just sits on your entire backline and they can't do anything about it. But also sometimes, if that's your only play style, you can get killed pretty easily.
Yes, very easily. And as soon as a cursed onk comes through, you're in a world of hurt pretty much every time you press that ultimate. But I don't know. I mean, Vamana's just really strong right now. As Finch kind of alluded to, he's impossible to peel. If you're a backliner and Vamana gets on top of you, and how do you stop him from getting on top of you? It's very, very hard to get him off. You just have to kill him. It's the only way that you can do it. I wonder if they're going to be able, if 60's going to be able to keep him out of this game just by way of getting really ahead early on, because that's what this comp kind of needs to do with this Chulainn support. This happens every single time Chulainn's really good. He starts getting played as support. And I have never once thought, yeah, I love it. I never get it. And I swear it's because Chulainn is fun and supports just want to play something fun.
All right, so you don't love it, but are you infatuated?
No, I'm not. Like,
you're not even asked, dinner.
No, I'm polite.
Sure.
To it, I'm willing to sustain a conversation, ask how Chulainn support's day is going, and then I'm very happy saying goodbye and walking away from it.
Right. It's easy if the conversation isn't flowing. I'll turn around and walk away.
Oh yeah. And let me tell you, the conversation's not going to be flowing. Yeah,
it's not really flowing all that well as VaporishCoast has found himself half health already into this lane. Yeah, much more traditional kind of duo with the Bacchus and the Jing way. I mean, I'm not even sure, because I, granted, haven't seen it all that much. What type of play style a Qualifiers support even brings to the table? I mean, are you really just waiting for that rage transformation?
Yeah, pretty much. You basically play solo lane just with less items and less gold and less XP. That seems worse to me. And maybe the argument is, well, we need the Achilles to get more pressure over there. Turtle struggled in the early game on the Chulainn, but I feel like Achilles support has also been a thing for a while. That makes way more sense to me. Way more guaranteed CC and execute. It works.
Dobsonnn locked off to the side. SCC grabs the kill. Close, though. Nearly a turnaround from Dobsonnn. That's 2.5 minutes into this game, and just F6's mid laner, RemagDoku, already has a kill on the board.
And Doku played really well with the lead last game. I thought his Merlin play was pretty solid. Dobsonnn struggled last game, fell behind pretty early, and really had a hard time trying to catch up.
They're going to put him back on traditional mid lane mage here. Rottwen, a little over-aggressive on that purple buff. Yeah, you get it, but you're immediately going to lose it. VaporishCoast is able to clean up the first kill as 60 gets themselves back on the board, but the fighting might continue over here by the blue buff. SCC has that early wall and trying to lock down Reeqo here. Enough damage spinning around. He might be able to turn it around. SCC falls as well. Early skirmishes in this game, Ryan. And 60, they carved themselves out a 2-kill lead.
That was really well.
1-kill lead.
Yeah, 1-kill lead, but 2 quick kills for them, especially after that first blood does not go particularly well for them in the mid lane. That, oh, hey, Bologna. Well, how you doing? Looks like Dobsonnn just got a little bit too aggressive and walled off effectively by that Thor. But then we see the Qualifiers support do the Qualifiers support things. Switch runs it down on the purple buff, and Rottwen, again, a little bit ambitious on the purple buff secure attempt. He gets it.
He gets it, yeah.
Ends up losing his life for it. I gotta say, I'm surprised that just F6 went back to the Bacchus support this game. I know Rottwen makes the big play stealing fire, but for the majority of the game was not contributing as much as you'd like your Bacchus support to do. It is an execution-heavy pick. You've got to be accurate with those belly flops, and I just didn't think Rottwen did a good enough job last game. Maybe it was just an off one, and I liked it at some level at least. Just F6 are willing to trust their support and give him what he thinks he can play well on.
Yeah, maybe you're nitpicking, but when VaporishCoast was on that Vulcan, it was some over-aggression at times from this Bacchus that kind of kept him in that one. So early on, Rottwen has found himself one death in the hole. So good job from 60 at least. You kind of shrug off that first blood, keep yourself in this game. RemagDoku, though, still has that 1 level and 1-kill lead on Dobsonnn on this Persephone, and that can be suffocating. A Merlin that starts to get a lead is very difficult to lane against.
It is, because Merlin's early game is the weakest part of his game. His mana costs are pretty high. He doesn't have enough MP5 to stay in lane a long time, and his damage just isn't really there. So getting you through that part of the game very early is absolutely huge. As soon as you get to 3-4 items on Merlin, you're feeling good about where you are just about every single time.
Turtle feeling much more confident in lane this time, has carved himself out a 1-level lead. Interestingly enough, in the previous game, it was kind of beads for Turtle, and Oti had himself the teleport. This time around, both from base. Turtle grabbed himself the TP, but Oti has the blink this time around. Don't know how large of an impact that will have on this game or in this lane. That sort of remains to be seen, but at least a difference maker blink-wise. Maybe that's what you want to do on a Vamana, get into the back line as quickly as possible.
Exactly. As I said, once Vamana's in the back line, it's impossible to get him out. Blink gets you into the back line, no questions asked. You're able to get there really easily. So I like Vamana with blink. Well, I don't like playing against Vamana with blink. I like it for the Vamana player because it's very easy to then just save your dash for when you need it to get out.
That was some good chunk damage there from VaporishCoast. Back onto the Xbalanque, on a traditional hunter here for himself this time around. Grabbed himself first blood, so a small lead there in this long lane. And we're approaching that point, and maybe have been at that point, where the Guardians have started to rotate out from the long lane, move themselves towards this mid lane, and it appears to be that's where most of this game will start to flow.
Definitely. I think that this pick for Vaporish makes me much happier to see him on the Xbalanque than the Vulcan. He's a really aggressive player by nature. He wants to get in the enemy's face and oftentimes wants to play assassin hunter, which is not always a particularly viable strategy, but on Xbalanque it can be. You turn out the lights and they don't see you coming from behind. You're able to put out a lot of damage very, very quickly. I think Xball is in a very strong state right now with how good Rage is. He's always good when Rage is good. So I really like him on this pick. and I think he's going to have a much better game than the Vulcan.
It's like an early Transcendence pickup for the X-Ball, and Dobsonnnn's going to stay aggressive. Ultimate doesn't fully connect, but some good damage onto Rottwen, and he's able to finish it off, and down goes the Bacchus for the second time this game. So as in love with that Chulainn Guardian support that we were, with a 2-level lead, granted Rottwen has found himself in the gray screen a little bit more than Switch so far this time. But that's sort of the shades of what we were worried about on this Bacchus.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what Persephone does as well, is the ability to follow up on anything from any sight line, and even if she doesn't land the actual cage, the cage will find its way. You know, those vines are alive, and life finds a way.
That's really poetic.
Thank you.
That just came to you?
You know, it didn't. It's actually a very famous quote by famous Pittsburgher, Jeff Goldblum.
Just to be clear, I knew that. I need to make sure
I know.
that, okay.
I know. No, I didn't know that, but
I need to make sure that I'm not suddenly the one
thought of as.
You turned that around real quickly and real well on me, and I hate you for it.
Well,
but,
that's kind of something I bring to the table. That's what you got to Dulcet, I know you're still new around here, but you'll learn soon enough. You'll learn
me
soon
trying to be sassy against aggro for even half a second.
No, sir.
Immediately dunked on. That's okay.
It was really just I wanted everyone to know that Jeff Goldblum is from Pittsburgh. You know, we don't.
And you should.
The region discussion always was a big thing. Tom always a big fan of talking about who was from New York. I feel like I got to bring it to the table now. You know, I got to be talking about who's from Pittsburgh all the time.
Yeah, are there any famous Ohioans?
LeBron James.
There you go. All right.
Steph Curry. The end.
Fair enough. I'll take those two. Absolutely. Totti is going to have to burn his ultimate and to not take a death there for himself.
There have got to be more people from Ohio that are famous, but I really don't know any.
Me.
All right. Yeah, of course. if Chad, if you could have seen the look Dulcet gave me, like, how could you forget this one? I thought it was going to be, it was going to be someone incredibly famous that I obviously should have known. A true American hero that I can't believe.
Listen, point still stands. I don't know where you're going with this one.
Me, of course. Apologies, Dave. Apologies.
Well, I like the use to re-ground our conversation in some sense of Smite reality. Totti having to burn that airstrike defensively this time. So an attempted gank from 60 goes searching for a kill this time around, but Jing is not super sad about that. Yeah, you have to disengage, you have to go back to base, but the passive allows you to get back to lane really quickly, and kind of not surprising that she's in the current meta.
No, she's going to be good for a long time. Probably forever with a kit like that, honestly. She's been good forever with that kit. Is Rottwen in trouble again?
Here's Switch. Chulainn support has found the knockup, and he's found the damage. Rottwen falls for his 3rd time this game. Dobsonnn trying to get out. iSotos says no way to that one. Totti, you don't have your ultimate this time. Dash forward from VaporishCoast, and that's going to be the final auto attack that he needs. 60, a much better start to this game. They're in the lead, 5-2. Really
nicely done. Dobsonnn just gets Doku low, tries to make the hero play with the freehand ultimate. Doesn't end up working out, but got to respect the attempts, and then that kind of baits Rottwen in, and Switch is able to get him punished. Dobsonnn was going to kill him without any help, but a really good wall from Sotos actually blocked the auto attack that was going to pop the seed that would have killed Rottwen. That sounds like a children's song somewhere along there, but it ends up nearly saving the support's life. At least Sotos is able to get a kill back and put Dobsonnn down for the 2nd time.
Well, bad to worse across the map for just F6. This Bacchus is a tough time. Of the 5 kills 60 has, 3 of them are onto Rottwen. He's keeping himself level relevant, I suppose. He's not, 2-3 levels behind that we've seen at some courses throughout this set. I mean, level 8 to all right, so he is 2 levels behind as the Chulainn is able to complete level 10. Big difference maker though in this one. The rotations have just been a little bit more effective from Switch, and as concerned as we were, and I think for good reason, Switch has made this Chulainn support work.
He has, and it's played well. I don't know that
you're not excited that other people might get excited about playing Chulainn support.
All I'm saying is that maybe, just maybe, with the way that this game is played out, Chulainn isn't the reason that Switch is 2 levels up. It's the way that Switch has positioned himself, and you can play that. You could have gotten this way with just about any aggressive support. It just so happens to be Chulainn.
I think that's fair enough.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, I think it's entirely fair. And we're also, we're approaching the point in the game where Qualifiers going to find his impact one way or the other, and Oti is going to try to find some impact. Doesn't have his ultimate. Colossal Fury not ready, and therefore he's going to get taken down, executed by Turtle, but the crash comes down. SCC is going to try to turn around some damage, does so here. Reinforcements are in from just F6, and Rottwen's going to look to do something other than die so far this game, and is not going to find much else. Switch has transformed, he's going to tremble a couple. This one looks like it's going to disengage at a 1-for-1.
Switch needs a little bit of poke on the way out, but you get solo laner for solo laner. That favors just F6 though, because Turtle is just worth more inherently because he's level 12. And CaptainOti's only level 11, though Turtle does have TP, whereas CaptainOti does not. Not that big of a deal on Vamana though, with that dash and having some of the best base movement speed in the entire game.
Well, and we've kind of left these two hunters out on an island, and I think Totti might be a little bit sad about that one. He has that airstrike, but you can see the moment VaporishCoast knows that that airstrike is down, he is fine taking this 1v1 engagement time and time again.
This is exactly what I was talking about. Coast is very comfortable on these hunters. He wants to play aggressively, and Xbalanque can do that pretty well. And he's top of the net worth charts right now. He's forced the Jing way out of lane enough, and with a couple kills and a couple assists, thanks to that global ultimate, he's going to climb up those net worth charts pretty well. It's been a good game for him so far.
I think you do have to be careful though. The rage now completed by Totti, so synergizing well with the Jingwei kit. You might feel comfortable in the 1v1s, but you might not always win them if the RNG numbers aren't necessarily in your favor. Rotation here to the long lane. Reeqo about half health. Totti's going to get aggressive, but the dash is in from that set to keep him alive. So no kills just yet on either side. Only ultimate used there is from Reeqo, rather the airstrike used as well, and it's going to be a Gold Fury pull.
Don't know if 60 really know this is happening, and I was going to say, I don't think this is a great idea either way. With Switch on this side of the map, Coast healthy enough to get involved, and with that ultimate coming up, that's a risky Gold Fury pull. Wise of just F6 to let it go. By the way, I did get G-chatted a famous Ohio whip, and you got Neil Armstrong's not a bad one.
He's up there somewhere.
He's pretty good.
I'll take that.
That's a pretty famous guy. Not compared to all the people from Pittsburgh that are famous.
Right, I mean, but you know, it's one small step for man.
Right.
And I'm going to bail myself because I don't know where I'm going with that one. But it worked. It worked for the first couple sentences and then just kind of fell apart.
Oh, it's fine. You were close.
I was close. Just F6.
Listen, man, first set of the day, you know?
You're right. You got to work ourselves into it. You're with me on the third set of the day as well. So things are just going to get better and maybe worse here for Switch. Lights are out thanks to VaporishCoast, but tanky enough is that Chulainn, but being burned away. One final shot, and RemagDoku finds it. Dobsonnn locks down one. Beads used, though, by SCC to keep him alive. Dashes back to his hammer. So pivoting around that Gold Fury pays off, at least to the tune of 1 kill.
Switch falls pretty quickly and takes a little bit too long for 60 to try and respond, but this is risky. I mean, both Reeqo and Dobsonnn right here on tower line.
Oh, Dobsonnn, you're squishy, and you're going to get stunned down by Rottwen. RemagDoku is going to try to turn around the damage. Dobsonnn just needs one more tick, but the range isn't quite there. Reeqo instead turns it around, might even have himself a double. He's getting aggroed by the tower, pulled back in. Good sidesteps, a double kill from Reeqo, but SCC is able to come in and at least pull one back. For just F6, or for 60 rather.
That's a big kill onto Reeqo because he was going to get out of control pretty quickly. Should he have been able to stay up there, but really, you see the power of Set, man. He pops that Kingslayer, and it is hard to outtrade him as soon as he gets that going.
SCC is going to move in. Totti is very low here, but VaporishCoast a little bit lower. Might be enough damage. Oh, the Aegis. I might save SCC there. Well played by VaporishCoast, but just too much damage on the turnaround from that Thor and that Jingwei.
If Coast uses beads right away, I think he kills SCC in that instance, but he takes a little bit too much damage. He eats the full double tap. If he's able to just use those beads, and no surprise at all to me that Coast immediately tries to play that, just outplay his opponents and get the double kill by himself. Right. That's who the kid is. But you got to use those relics. I think he could have done it. Just no relic usage made it a lot harder.
He almost did it. The mechanical skill was there, but he does end up falling for the first time this game. Still at 2-1-2, so a great slash line for him. Thought he has kept pace, at least level-wise here, and now a couple stacks on that Rage. You know, despite some of those early engagements going for VaporishCoast, this Jingwei is really going to start to hurt, and maybe hopefully a little bit extra here. Gold Fury pulled. Gold Fury taken down by just F6. They start it, they finish it. They do lose one in the meantime, though, as Rottwen goes down. Up to the sky goes SCC. Where does he crash? He's down into the back line. Dobsonnn burns the Aegis to keep himself in this fight. Turtle, though, finds the knock-up. SCC moving himself backwards. It's a 2-for-2 engagement and a 1-for-1 on the back line. Switch has found himself on Totti. He's going to use those thorns just for a little bit of extra length in this one. Turtle, he gets the kill onto SCC in the meantime, and here's that colossal raid ripping through from Oti. That's so much damage turned around onto him. I don't know if the active's going to keep him in this engagement much longer. As Reeqo, oh, he's not able to finish it off. Totti gets the final shot there. Dobsonnn looking for some ranged poke, and he grabs himself the kill as well.
Man, those crits, you were talking about the RNG earlier. I think Reeqo got a little bit unlucky in that moment, but a really good job by Rottwen in that fight. Doesn't get the ultimate off, or maybe it was just coming up off cooldown, but he actually eats that grasp of death coming from Dobsonnn. That would have hit the entire enemy team. Maybe it steals Gold Fury. It definitely makes that fight a lot worse for Just F6, but Rottwen does the right thing. You just have to eat that ult as the tank that's zoning, and he keeps that fight going well enough for Just F6. They get the Gold Fury. They go basically even in the team fight. At least CaptainOti ends up surviving. That's big for them. And you look at the way that Turtle's building in particular, this is going to be a pretty easy team to just dive because everyone is fairly squishy. Turtle is going more damage. He's going for what I imagine is going to be Heartseeker in that 4th item slot. Doku should be pressing tab and looking at that Achilles and going, yo, dude, if we belly flop this guy, he insta-dies off of a flop because he has 0 magic defense right now.
Well, the damage has been good enough at least to secure himself 3 kills. Just F6, though, are going to secure the Pyromancer. This time, it seems like, you know, the kills have been going 60's way, but these neutral map objectives, Just F6 has just been a little bit better at securing. The Gold Fury pulls back the gold differential from what was hefty in the 2,000-3,000 range down to just a few hundred here, if that. So Just F6, I think, have done a great job of positioning themselves despite maybe a level and XP differential.
Agreed. I think that's what is going to win you way more games than getting kills, is getting those objectives, and Just F6 doing a good job of prioritizing that so far, but still 60 is right there with him. It hasn't been,
yes.
It isn't a huge differential by any means. By the way, surprised that Vaporish has no rage in the build. That's one of the main draws in my mind to Xbalanque, is that you get easy rage stacks no matter where the fight is going on, as long as you have your ultimate up and you use it. Surprised that he doesn't have it at all. Looks like, I mean, maybe he can go Rage Deathbringer from here, but feels like he might just be going for that pen build to try and kill CaptainOti.
Potentially late to get that Rage online. I mean, Totti has had it for the last 5 minutes and has only reached those 3 stacks. So it takes a minute to get wound up, especially with kind of these small in-and-out skirmishes that we've had. Mid lane tier 1 tower, though, maybe the target of priority here for 60. Just needs a little bit of poke to take it down. Have been some other towers taken down. Not quite the, what was it, 5-minute, 2, 3, 4-minute, 5-minute tower, whatever it was in game number 1.
No.
At the end, over in that solo lane, thanks to Oti. So slightly different. 20 minutes in, this one's still very close. Could shift a little bit here as Dobsonnn gets dove on, has the Aegis to keep him alive. Turns around, ultimate charge, beads down by 1. Doku solo there, Switch jumps in. SCC in the back line, though, cleans up that Persephone. The stun wall is down, and he's going to get melted away just a little bit. That passive form still does plenty of damage. He's going to time out. SCC is going to stay alive. You got a 1-for-1 kill here with Turtle not yet engaging.
Man, Dobsonnn had so many plans, just couldn't find him. How about this? Turtle going underneath the tier 2. That lack of tanking is certainly on display.
Yeah, I saw a couple of those execute targets, and I was thinking maybe you stack the 1-2, but suddenly that tower starts to hurt just a little bit extra. So nothing to be found there. The late engagement not paying off, but also not costing him really much there. It is the mid-tier 1 tower is really, I guess, the big differentiator in that fight.
Yeah, you're going 1-for-1, get the tier 1 tower. It's still a win for 60 for sure, but I feel like that could have gone a little bit better. Dobsonnn had so many plants ready to go, and instead of just turning as soon as you die, you just can turn and pop all those, and they'll do good damage for you. You don't have to worry about it. Maybe try to get a little bit too cheeky with the way you wanted to play it, but either way ends up working out A-okay for the time being.
There are relics burnt from both sides on that one, both notably from Turtle. He tried to find something in that engagement, but both relics down for Doku here, and that could potentially be a difference maker as Primal Fury has started. SCC is going to take to the sky just to play bit of a lighthouse up there and try to spot out enemies, and nothing to be found. So a free Primal Fury now taken down, and again, just F6. They started both the Furies and finished both the Furies. Fire Giant thought about. That'd be an interesting call.
Totti coming in as well, but this time just F6, a little bit too wary of the potential. This happened to them in game 1. They don't get caught by the same game plan in game 2. That's good heads up and learning from what your opponents like to do.
They're going to end up pulling off of the FG. Switch very close to transforming there and well vented to kind of keep himself out of that form, maybe sensing that a fight could be brewing up on this side. And with this positioning, you lose a fight handily right next to this Fire Giant. That is an FG to the other team. Easily. And that's exactly, you mentioned Doku's beads being down and Aegis. That's exactly why 60 is setting up on this Fire Giant. They want a fight to happen if they can. Well, they're setting it up and doing it. Half health on the FG and just F6. Sotos isn't in range to fight here, doesn't have his ultimate to close that gap either. Totti is there, just poking away a little bit of damage. 60, they secure this FG, but do they win the fight on the back end of it? Switch transforms, but he's so low. Oti moves himself in, gets the kill, and he's found himself right where you want to be. He's deep in the backline as Dobsonnn. He's going to throw out the ultimate as well. It's a 1-for-1 trade so far up to this point. You lose your Hunter and the Guardian if you're 60. Dobsonnn poked down. CaptainOti not able to finish it off. Great body blocking there from 60. And you lose 3 all of a sudden if you're just F6. Wow, what a fight by 60. They get fire and just F6. I mean, they had the right idea. Hey, this team likes to pull fire in risky situations. They're going to try and sneak one on us. Let's check it. Oh, yeah, they were trying it. All right, cool. They definitely won't do it again, even though we have no ward vision whatsoever. Let's just all back. You know, let's just back up and get our buffs. And only one member backed. That was Sotos, but that's a big one to not have at the very beginning of that fight. Just, I don't know. I don't know if they just didn't think that they would do it. I don't know what the thought process was, but clearly was not the right call to let 60 have that much space around fire. It's tough to lose Totti that early on as well if you're just F6. I mean, there was some good zoning in, but when your Hunter is the first person you lose in those engagements, especially one that now has a fully stacked Rage, Devourer's Gauntlet there to keep you in the fights longer, that's a brutal first pick, and things just sort of seemed to stumble out of control from then on out. And kind of pivoting to VaporishCoast, we're surprised that he didn't pick up Rage as that 3rd or 4th item. He is foregone crit entirely. Gone for the traditional pen build, the Executioner chin size, just try and knock down these tanks, and it didn't take him long to kill CaptainOti, but Oti doesn't have that much physical defense anyways, so I think Crit would have done largely the same thing with the ability to also insta-kill Doku or Totti or Sotos in these team fights. Maybe it's because the Transcendence, it means that you need to get some lifesteal with Aussie or something like that. That's the way that Coast feels. Transcendence certainly feels good because it means that you get to keep that branching Vola up all the time. Well, he will still hurt just plenty if an unmitigated target is just running at him, and VaporishCoast is able to get off free damage like on this tier 2 tower on the left-hand side. So exposed Phoenix now on the left. If you're just F6, maybe that's your defense here. They're just going to rotate towards this mid-tier 2 tower as well. Just trying to play slow and methodical. We got the FG buff, and we're technically in the lead. No need to force anything. Exactly. This is a much better way to use your FG than last time we saw 60 get one in game 1, where they rush it. They try and get a Phoenix right away. They don't push up their waves well enough. They don't have a wave on this right-hand tier 2, but I don't think that just F6 is going to be worried about a tier 2 at this point in the game. This is give up territory and just sit on your Phoenixes and try and defend from there. Yeah, full-blown Phoenix defense. Turtle mode, despite Turtle being on 60. Oti not wanting to step out, and right side Phoenix will be a bit of safety here for just F6. But they're just going to back off, and with a minute left on that FG buff, you get a few kills, 3 notably on the back end of that fight. All 3 tier 2 towers. And yeah, you have, you know, Fire Giant for another 45 seconds. But now you're in the lead by 8,000 gold, 12,000 XP. You're just starting to pivot and maybe looking at FG one more time. Yeah, only 30 seconds left on the buff. I think that the map kind of takes you there pretty nicely at this point because you just stay on this left-hand side, get your buffs, then we get Fury because that's up at about 15 seconds. Then we go over to the right-hand side and pull fire once again. And I doubt just F6 is going to try and make a fire defense at this point. Their defense on the Phoenix is pretty solid. They've got Jing who's very hard to lock down, who can get poked out and then be right back in very, very quickly.
And then you've got Merlin, who is one of the best defenders on the Phoenixes because he's got good range, damage, and CC that he can put over a wall.
We were wondering what Turtle would maybe go for into kind of that hybrid defensive and its spectral armor rather, to finish off his build. And certainly not a bad item buy when you're facing a crit build Jingwei on the enemy team.
No, because as soon as Jingwei pops that 2, that's 100% crit chance, I believe. So you end up guaranteeing to get crit. So both Switch and Turtle have picked this item up. And it's going to help, but especially in the case of Turtle's build, it's not going to do enough necessarily. He's still going to get killed in 5 to 6
will
autos. It'll still hurt, but it will hurt less, which is the ultimate goal, I suppose.
50% less,
yeah,
as a matter of fact. But
that's a mood right there. It'll still hurt, but it'll hurt less.
Fair enough. And that's about all you can hope for if Totti is able to sort of free fire. And I kind of think back to that last Fire Giant fight. 60 did a great job of, I don't know if you call it mispositioning, but engaging immediately onto that Jingwei. And that just made the rest of the fight so easy there for them. Ward coverage is there for just F6. They know this is going on. They elect to come out and maybe defend this one, but Doku still back in base at that right side Phoenix. Switch still playing zone. They have pulled off of the FG here out of the pit. Still attacking though, so they're just kind of taking free poke damage, just a little bit, not all that much. But Switch is going to be the one to move in and engage. That's a double knock up there. Dobsonnnn's ultimate goes just wide, chains in a few. Beads, relics, actives, all burnt here for just F6. Trembling, Switch takes so much damage on his engage. Down crashes Sotos, but the execute could be in if Turtle finds a shot, and down goes Sotos, but he's able to trade out one as Dobsonnn into the passive form. Switch, Oti's not able to finish off the damage. Switch stays alive, but in the meantime, Totti is found a kill on the back line of this fight. Airstrike flies through. Turtle finds his second of this fight, and so does Totti. VaporishCoast wants to take this 1v1. Beads out the stun, turns around the damage. Could be the double. VaporishCoast, what a play. One man alive for both teams.
Yeah, that's the Coast I know. Who cares about peeling for the support? CaptainOti just loops around on Switch and gets the kill there. But Vaporish is dashing into the 2-on-1 in order to try to make a play happen. Just surprised that just F6 is willing to be there at that fight at all. And 60, I think, just a little bit too antsy to take that fight. They had fire really, really low. And the way that Dobsonnn is setting up these plants, Persephone can be phenomenal at securing Fire Giant if you just set up some plants all around the fire and then explode them all at once with that flourish. But you have to do it kind of late because you only want them at tier 2, not at tier 3, because if they're at tier 3, they hunt the enemy instead of going for the objective. But you can have phenomenal objective secure with Persephone, but Dobsonnn setting up his garden as a defensive tool. If he gets jumped on by Sotos, if Sotos dunks him and Dobsonnn standing on 5 tier 3 plants, Sotos gets legitimately one-shot by Flourish. It's just a difference of where he wants that prioritization because you don't have enough seeds for both. I think that I would be setting up around that Fire Giant to try and secure. 60 was in a good position to do just that, but it seemed like Switch and the rest of the team were a little bit more keen on taking the fight.
Deathbringer picked up 6th overall for Totti here, try to mitigate some of that spectral armor the best that he can. Switch still playing that heavy front line as Rottwen moves in. Fire Giant taken very low here. Stunned out is Reeqo on the left-hand side. They're going to pull off of it one more time, very close to finishing it, realizing the fight may be more important. That's a stun onto Switch, half health on that Chulainn. Fire Giant still pulled, but now regaining his health. Just F6 have a new air of confidence as they push in to this right side jungle.
Surprise as well, because neither Sotos nor Doku has any relics at all. Totti having both is huge. And you know VaporishCoast doesn't have beads, but Dobsonn's relics have just now come up. But Switch with an oddly timed back. This is a 5-on-4, though I don't know if just F6 know it.
And they are going to start poking out that Fire Giant. Neither team fully committing to it. It was very low a moment ago for 60, but they don't finish it off. Instead, maybe looking for an engagement. Just F6 do the same. Suddenly, there is some small poke back and forth. Rottwen looking for the jump up and down. Switch is going to be able to get himself back. Take this tier 1 tower, but Oti has found his way into the back line, whacking away at Dobsonnn, who has to use the Aegis, but he's able to dash himself backwards. CaptainOti's got 4 men looking at him here, and he's going to run himself out of that one. Execute,
nice
body blocked out by Doku, takes a little bit of damage for his troubles, but health bars melting from just F6. Switch pops those thorns, is moving in to the front line himself. Totti poking away, plenty of damage himself. VaporishCoast finds the kill onto the enemy Hunter. Reeqo, he's found the second in this fight. Suddenly just F6. They've only got 3 members left alive. Make it 2. And suddenly VaporishCoast is starting to rip through the remaining members, and Rottwen the last man alive.
That's what you picked the Xbalanque for, and that's what Coast wants to do, is just destroy a team fight with a late game Hunter. The idea was solid, but Doku takes a little bit too much damage by stepping in front of Turtle. With Turtle's build, he has no magical defense. He should be the focus every single fight. It should be any sort of CC on the Achilles into Merlin damage, and we're in a 5v4. You don't have to use even ult in order to kill him. And they just got, I think that just F6 got a little bit too caught up in what was happening on these objectives, because I really feel like they had a really good opportunity to win this game right here.
And they do not, as 60 are able to tie it up here in this best of 3. We're going to a game 3. Just as promised, we figured this would be a very competitive group and a very competitive region. We're already going to a game 3, our first set into today.
Yeah, no surprise. I just feel like that fight goes as well as you could ever ask for just F6. I mean, the Persephone ult is completely worthless, does literally nothing in that team fight. Oti's is pounding on Dobsonnn. He forces him completely out of the fight. And then that Xbalanque ult, I think, really just confused just F6 on where they needed to be, who they should be on. And then Coast and the rest of the boys just picked him apart after that.
Hunter's big difference makers in this one towards the end. VaporishCoast, though, he pushes 60, over the edge to tie this one up. So we'll go to Finch to break it down.
I'll be happy to. If you all are enjoying the quality of the games that we are watching right now, I don't mean to go all Dragon Ball Z on you here, but there is a level even further beyond in the SPL that's going to be starting next week. So make sure that you're checking that out March 14th at 3 p.m. right here on twitch.tv/SmiteGame or mixer.com/SmiteGame, wherever you feel more comfortable. Still Finch on the desk. I'm joined here by Gore Miser. And Gore, that game is kind of what we expected from this set. Right now, we're getting close.
Yeah, and it was really weird because a lot of things, I think, go right there for just F6 even, although the things that started to fall apart, the Bacchus didn't work out nearly as well as it did in game 1, and now you're starting to wonder, like, okay, is this something that you should be going back to? Is it something that is working out for you? Rottwen played it really well, and then the opposite of really well, VaporishCoast goes pretty massive. The same thing for Turtle. Like, the two sides of the map, the sandwich bread of the team really kept things rolling for him.
I would say so too, man. I don't know. I think there's something about being the Chaos side support this set that's just not working. I mean,
that's bad luck, dude.
Was really struggling in game 1, had a huge bounce back performance on this Chulainn. And Rottwen played well in game 1, and then really struggled here in game number 2. It's just not working for one of these supports. It looks like these supports can be the focus, and someone's gonna have a bad game.
And I mean, it also has to be said, like, you look at it, and a lot of people were all like, I mean, we were ready to, I think Aggro as well was ready to discount that Chulainn. Like, we're just like, man, okay, yeah, that's probably not going to work out as well as you would like it to. And then it did everything you wanted, maybe even then some, from your support. And I think it also has to be said, the Vamana was something I looked at as potentially being something big. Didn't go the haste katana that we're used to seeing. Didn't go for like a frostbound hammer.
I think he might have had haste.
He went for an Erendite later on in his build, which kind of caught me off guard. But I mean, fundamentally same mentality. Hey, I'll chase you down, see where it comes from. But he just never got running at the same pace, really, that you want out of your Vamana. Couldn't stick to people the way he wanted to.
We have seen Vamana do really well, haven't we? And this is not quite up to that level. You saw it towards the end, though. Obviously, whenever it comes time to make the highlights, that's VaporishCoast's time to shine. I think when you're playing with Coast, all you really got to do is get my man to the point where he can carry, and then he'll just do it. Yeah, then he'll do it. But you got to get him there. He had a pretty good game throughout this time, though. He was aggressive, up by purple buff, trying to make some plays there and finding good kills.
In comparison to the Vulcan game, where he was just constantly getting pressured out. And I think that's going to be the difference, and it's the name of the game when it's just like, man, you're playing Vulcan, who, yes, we've seen work in the long lane. We've seen a lot of people be successful with it there, but not really recently and not too often lately. So you put him back on a Hunter, get him something where he's stable, and see what he does.
Doesn't even build crit. Can you imagine in this day and age?
Let's
go ahead and go into the picks advance for game number 2. Game number 3, excuse me. We are in the decider match here between 60 and Just F6. Now, we're going to be following along with Just F6 pretty much all day long, I think, in game 1, set 1, 3, and 4. So we're basically going to get to see exactly how it is that their path is going to be moving in towards that qualifier. I'm pretty sure that if you win 3 sets, that is enough to get you in, right? And you might even be able to make it in with 2, but you want to be able to win that 3rd one. So this is pretty important. All of these sets are going to be important for Just F6.
Yes, and I think the same thing, like the best thing about it, and I actually really like this, we get to see every team in this group today.
That's right. We'll see
just
everyone
because of the way we're doing it. it's going to be just F6 versus the world for a lot of it, but getting to see the world is still really awesome. The second set, I believe, is still Poppies and Freshly Forged.
Yes,
but
which should also be a really good set.
I was going to say, it's going to be a 6 set, but just F6 are, like, weirdly good in a way. Like, and I don't mean to take it away from them, but it's just like when you look at the names and you're just like, I don't know as many of these people. Like, I've heard some of these names, or maybe I've seen them in games, but, like, they haven't really played at this competitive level before, putting themselves together on a team and being able to keep up right now with a team like 60, but maybe what we'll see later in the day is some of those other teams. It's big for them, and now they have the Camazotz, which in my mind is like the biggest enabler of, yes, I will just do it by myself. Whether you give it to the jungle or the solo, they will just do the thing.
Yeah, Camazotz is so hard to stop from doing the things that he does well, right?
Which is living and killing you.
Yes, making
really,
sure that
really long
your backliner
forever.
dies a lot of the time, and he's very good at that kind of stuff. One of the ways, though, to interact with Camazotz while he's doing all his stuff you can't interact with is with a Yemoja, where you can have those heals that provide that shielding. You can't really peel it off of him when he's in the bat out of hell. Obviously, you can't interact with him there, but you can interact with your teammate and try and keep him alive. I didn't see particularly impressive Yemoja play from Switch last time, though, so he's going to have to make sure he does something a lot better on it this time.
No, I'm interested to see how he turns it around, because a lot earlier where it wasn't necessarily, I don't even want to say it was his fault. I think he got caught out a lot, which might have been his positioning, but there's a lot of anti-heal on their team as well. They had the Divine Ruin, they had it built in with the Bacchus. Now that they don't necessarily have all of that upfront anti-heal, I think it might give that Yemoja a little more potency for the team, and as long as he's positioned properly, I think the shielding and the healing is going to be much different.
This is scary, though. I really like this composition from Just F6. The Ratatoskr gives you a ton of early game presence. The Camazotz can seal it for you in the late game. And then you have this Khepri, which should be using Scarab's Blessing to make sure that even if a Thoth dive does happen, that he's able to live right on through it. I don't know how you're going to stop that artillery cannon in the back line.
Yeah, that's going to be very difficult. Like, I mean, Achilles, Thor can kind of get back there, and they can stick on him, but I don't know if you're going to be able to take care of him and deal with that through like a Khepri. There's a lot of sustain for Just F6. I'm feeling good about him.
Yeah, you basically got to kill him twice with that Scarab's Blessing. Game number 3, the decider match. I'm throwing it over to Dave.
Thank you, Finch. Game number 3 to decide it between Just F6 and 60. And both teams have shown resilience throughout this entire set. Fire Giants made a big difference. Hunters in the last game, VaporishCoast and Totti in the big skirmishes, playing big difference makers as well. VaporishCoast, the ultimate dagger into Just F6's lineup. But a difference, though, in the mid lane, I think, in this game, where the kind of usual suspects banned out. Merlin takes a back seat, Persephone as well. Scylla, fortunately or not, we don't have to dive into that. We have plenty already.
Why is everyone picking this character? It blows my mind.
My point being, that's kind of that second wave of mages we've seen in the mid lane.
Sure.
Thoth as well.
We see a lot of Scylla. There's no doubt that these players all must be seeing something different than me, because this god is just way overrepresented in my mind. But we've been on that soapbox a lot.
We have been. Poor Scylla has been berated time and time again. But Thoth, her lane opponent here, another god I would argue has kind of been in that second wave of, if the other 4 are banned out, we'll go towards this Thoth.
Definitely, and I think that he is a god that still does all the things that you don't want to play against. But look at this, Totti going aggressive.
He's dropping down, blink forward from Rottwen. That's a good shell. He's going to save VaporishCoast's life, but Dobsonnn, you can't say the same for him. There was a gank into the mid lane from SCC, so skirmish happening in the long lane, but kill happening in the mid lane thanks to an early game gank.
Ratatoskr and killing mid laners at level 2. Name a more iconic duo. It happens all the time. This god is just so good because he gets to get that Acorn too. It gives him the power of a mace, but more movement speed, and so it's really, really hard to get away from him. And he just has very impactful abilities at this point in the game. His base damage is really high. They all have good effects. You either get prot shredded or stunned or slowed, depending on what he goes for. So he does that pretty well most of the time.
We didn't get to quite capture it on screen, but we can take a look at the First Blood replay here and see exactly what happened. So actually not all that much of a gank. Relatively unsurprising, but a sudden blink forward.
Dobsonnn had his 1.
It's going to lock him down.
Yeah, Dobsonnn didn't get his dash. So as soon as you know that, then you know that he's free pickings, even with that positioning. And good communication by Doku and SCC. You could tell that that was premeditated. That would be first-degree murder if we were arguing this in court, because Doku dashes forward as soon as SCC blinks in.
Well, we have it on film, so it's about as clear-cut as a murder trial would be.
Yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah, it would be a messy trial, though. I mean, they always are. You know?
They always are. They're lengthy and drawn out, but Doku ultimately does get first blood on his hands and first blood in this game. So they're going to grab themselves a small lead there in the mid lane. I mean, there was a slight pivot because of the engagement down in the long lane, and there might be one here as well with Turtle trying to poke his way in, stunned out. I think they're just going to try to escape from this one. But this is Camazotz. He'll heal back up, and he'll be just fine. They could look for a little bit extra. He's already used his dash forward. Sotos, you just need a little bit more damage.
No.
You've aggroed the tower. He slides his way out. Close call there, but both get out alive. But we briefly brought up before the Hunter started skirmishing in the long lane. This Thoth in the middle lane obviously got first blood, and for good reason, makes a big impact.
And it's only getting worse for Thoth. Thoth is who Scylla wants to be, honestly. I mean, it's the bad early game that transitions into a really, really hard to stop late game, except Thoth can do it from such a long distance and has such a long dash that doesn't require a double fire. Thoth is just the more consistent character, I would argue, in a lot of ways. It's hard to deal with Thoth come late game, and I think that he is a god that we should see more of. Mage has lost a lot of penetration, both flat and percent. Thoth has flat pen built in. That seems pretty good to me. You're going to be doing damage pretty quickly.
It doesn't sound bad
with that character, and again, he's got the longest range in the game as far as regular abilities consistently goes. So it only takes playing against a good Thoth once for you to go, man, I totally forgot how horrible this character can be if the other player is really, really potent on him.
That's punishing.
The problem is that at the most levels, those players don't exist. He's a hard god to execute with.
Well, at this level, you imagine RemagDoku to be able to execute at the highest level. We didn't even really get a chance to touch on this Camazotz yet. So often banned out for great reason. You see him in the jungle, you see him in the solo lane. Talk about suffocating to lane against. Free damage amplification if you catch those sonic waves that you see bouncing around. And self-sustain, nothing there is bad.
Yeah, his 2 scales at 130%. That's a big number. And usually that's what you want, are big numbers on your team. Camazotz does those well.
Abduct rather, pulls back Turtle, but up to the sky goes
Hello.
Sotos, who crashes his way down. Beautiful ultimate execution there. 60, they get the first couple of kills in this one. Doku is rotating over from the mid lane, over by the fire giant pit. Ultimate used. I'm a monster collapses down onto Sotos. Suddenly things have gone from bad to worse. You get first blood, but suddenly you lose 3. What a fight there from 60.
Man, I don't know how Sotos has fallen so far behind. Ratatoskr is supposed to be the early game god, and the idea that it was really that he tried to invade blue, got poked out, then dove the tower, missed the 3, didn't get the kill, got poked out again, lost the blue on the invade, and that sets Reeqo up really nicely, but the initial decision making to not just take the fight mano a mano against Thor in the blue buff is what surprised me quite a bit, because he had full acorn at that time. He's so strong.
He's going to try to become relevant here as he leaps up to the sky and might crash down onto Dobsonnn. He goes. So Doku onto the board for the second time this game, and that's an execute effectively from VaporishCoast with that airstrike, and back under the safety of his tier 1 tower he goes. 1-for-1 trade. And now you got your Hunter on the board for VaporishCoast and the second kill for Doku.
But the problem is Reeqo is Thor, and Thor scales way, way better into the late game than Ratatoskr. These two characters always compared against one another because they both have ultimates that take them up into the sky and they dunk down, though that's pretty much where the similarities end. It's that Thor has so much more late game damage. His scaling is excellent. Adding that extra component to the ultimate made a huge difference for him. I think Reeqo is going to scale pretty well here in this game, and he gets to play much more aggressively at this point because of that range stun.
Yeah, you can sort of feel that confidence. Now Switch is in that point in the game where he's going to start rotating to this mid, hanging out with Reeqo a little bit more. You almost get the, and it's just that small example right there. I'm not sure Sotos is going to have a free uncontested clear unless Reeqo is elsewhere doing his own clear, because of just how confident he's feeling at 0-1-2, a 1-level advantage. It's going to be a tough game to get back into for this Rat.
You can still, I mean, here's the thing about Ratatoskr. At this point in the game, even though you're behind, level 6 Rat is still going to do a lot of damage in the early game. It's just the nature of the kit. So you can't let, if you're SCC, you can't just say, okay, I'm going into farm mode. Junglers have that kind of gear that they switch into when they're behind, where it's I'm not showing up for your lane, so quit asking. I'm going to my camps and I'm farming them, and I'm gonna try and catch up that way. And it works for a lot of junglers, but Rat just really shouldn't be one of those. You should still be trying to leverage that really good early game kit where you can. Problem is, there's not a lot of really great spaces. I think that Solo's really the only one that you can gank effectively because you have Camazotz over there. Jing Wei, you knock her up, she dashes away. I mean, you've got Dobsonnn in the mid lane, but it's more likely that Reeqo's going to be around mid than around Solo.
Dobsonn's speeds are down, so that window for a potential gank closing in the next 30 or so seconds. SCC still staying aggressive, though. Maybe contesting this red buff. VaporishCoast off to the side, blink forward, stunned down. VaporishCoast dashes away, as you'd expect from the Jing Wei.
And good patience by Coast. You get stunned and says, all right, I'll wait until the stun is over. It's not a long stun. It just usually does a lot of damage. Not when SCC is in this position. I know I said I wanted to see him play aggressively, but you have to play aggressively with a lot of wherewithal about how much damage you're actually going to do. You have to be realistic at the same time. That was just not a realistic engagement.
Well, at this point, effectively even across the board, save the jungle. Dobsonnn into I'm a Monster. CC immunity is going to sidestep a little bit. Ultimate flies through. Isn't going to do too much here. Dobsonnn, though, getting aggressed on. Get out of jail free card from Oti, who's not going to hit the final shot. And Dobsonnn, final bit of mobility just to get him back beneath that tier 2 tower safely. Doku, a nice sidestep on the stun there. A well-executed gank doesn't result in the kill, but a 1v1 for Totti onto VaporishCoast is going to grab that Hu Yi's first kill of the game.
All right, so I'm just going to assume that Oti made the decision that he didn't want that kill.
Right.
Because he should have had it.
Right.
But then he would have died on the back end, so deciding that his life was not worth that of Dobsonnn. I think that's a fair assumption to make, and that's the one I'm going to go with. But nice little backstep by Dobsonnn. Doku thought he had him dead to rights, but even with that gigantic I'm a Monster model, Dobsonnn was somehow able to squeak by that final judgment, and it ends up saving his life. But Totti getting that solo kill on the coast on the dual lane, huge, because this is a character in Jing Wei that stays behind will stay okay when behind well enough most of the time, but Hu Yi pushes leads awfully well.
Well, the ganks continue. No airstrike from VaporishCoast, but a dash backwards, well timed.
And that's why it's just not worth your time to ever gank duo as Ratatoskr against Jing Wei, because you knock her up and she just gets her long dash and you never get a chance to follow up on it. It's just if you're gonna pick Rat, you either have to pick Jing Wei or ban it, because it really does take a whole lane away from you as far as where you have potential ganks, and you're not picking Rat to hyper farm to the late game, you're picking Rat to gank side lanes early.
Well, Turtle, despite being a level ahead, is going to take plenty of poke damage from this Camazotz. As River's rebuke from Switch to try to engage on this fight. Dobsonnn tosses out the crush from over the Harpy wall, but this one seems like it's just going to fizzle out. I did want to touch quickly that there are lots of conversations. I know Doomorb has been a big mid-lane item pickup recently. Chronos Pennant has been a favorite as well, but Rod of Tahuti picked up first overall here for Dobsonnn.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't like Chronos Pennant at all on Scylla. I think that
fair enough.
Scylla's not a character where you're killing someone with 2 rotations. You're killing someone with 1. Reeqo looking for Oti, but Oti sniffed it out and had the ultimate ready. So getting as much power as you can early, and Rod is certainly that, makes sense, but it's still very expensive. And now he's building into Book. Why not just start with the Book in the first place? That's what makes not a lot of sense to me. I think the Book build is just better on Scylla. If you're going Scylla, Book of Thoth, into Boots, into Poly if you're ahead, or Pen if you're behind is the way to go.
Turtle's going to have to use the ultimate to dash out SCC. This could be a free kill here for you. Oti was tanking up that tower. Small bit of healing from Turtle, but not enough to keep him alive. Counter gank there from Reeqo, but I'm not sure he's going to look for much more. So down goes Turtle, as just F6 are able to find a kill. Nice wall, keeps him in tower range, and he does end up finding the kill. What a sidestep, maybe misplay there from Oti. Stays in range of that wall. I'm a Monster crashes down. You're locked in place, but doesn't matter. The root is going to get it done for Dobsonnn. So you trade out kills 2 for 1 across the board.
Now, I understand that I'd assume that dash forward was just a misclick from Doku, but Rottwen had ult. He's Khepri. Throw it on him, bro. He was walking. He turned his back and was walking away. That
Nah, I only saved myself, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a head scratcher for me. I don't know about all that one, Chief.
Well, and that keeps Dobsonnn a little bit closer in that mid lane. Crush just for some peel on VaporishCoast, who is rooted down. That one will disengage there as well. And Gold Fury at this point in the game, Ryan, I mean, you're looking at almost exactly 1,000 gold lead. And with how close things are, the XP being the main differential, at about 3 and some change thousand there in favor of 60. Gold Fury could be a big turning point for one of these two teams.
I agree, and I think that Just F6 are the team that need it more because their composition, some would call it well-balanced because you've got a really good early game jungler in Ratatoskr and a really good late game mage in Thoth, and I just think it's a little bit too divided. I think that the Khepri in the late game is good, Ho Yi is fine come late game, Camazotz falls off a little bit, doesn't get to do as much nut stuff. Really, it's only their Thoth as the late game hyper carry. I think 60 has a much better late game draft. Yemoja late game is absurd with all the healing and the shielding. Jing one of the best late game hunters. Achilles stays relevant because of the execute. Thor becomes a pretty good just one-shot jungler late game, and then Dobsonnn is playing a very good late game mage. So Just F6, I think, need this more than 60 do.
We've seen some good and bad out of the Yemoja today from Switch. I would argue a much better showing here in the early game for 60. 0-0-5 now on that god. The River's Rebukes, I think, have done a good job of setting up some good fights. Looks like Tier 1 tower in this short lane will be the first to fall in this game, so 60 are able to carve themselves out a little bit more of an advantage. And we haven't quite seen this Camazotz out-bully that we expect. And CaptainOti is actually going to blink forward, try to contest this blue buff. Not sure he ended up picking that one up. He did, so he picked up the blue buff for himself there. But we haven't quite seen this Camazotz just completely out-bully the Achilles like we might have expected.
No, and it's because SCC got bullied out a little bit on that right-hand side early on. That set up Turtle. Really, that triple dunk by Reeqo was absolutely absurd by the blue buff, and that set Oti and SCC and Rottwen behind off that play, and so Oti's still done a good job. He still pokes Turtle out, but he's not as dominant as you would really hope for with, again, one of the best gods in the game right now.
Not quite as suffocating as Camazotz. We have seen the potential, but maybe not there. Doku has Switch hanging out around this corner here. There is some support out behind him. And similar to how you don't necessarily want to get wiped right next to Fire Giant late in the game, with this Gold Fury first on the board, a big difference could it make if one of these two teams over-engages. There's still Turtle on his blue buff, so he's not here to fight, but Oti is rotating back through here. This could be Just F6 pivoting to the GF.
Dobsonn's got good steal potential, but this should be on Doku to secure it before I'm a Monster even gets close.
Turtle not here. 5 strong from Just F6. Gold Fury taken low. 60, they take it away. Just F6 start it. 60, they finish it off, but they might want the fight still. Just F6 up to the sky, rather, and Jing does the same. VaporishCoast escapes, and in a 4v5 disadvantage, 60 steal away the Fire Giant, and that right lane is pushing as well.
Look, I mean, I'm a Monster's going to do more damage at this point in the game because Dobsonnn has Rod and Soul Reaver. He spent nearly 6,000 gold on power items so far, so that's a lot of power that he's got in the bank. So then reset it if that's the game plan. If we are not using Final Judgment to secure gold, we should be resetting as soon as Dobsonnn shows up. Or if we're trying to use Final Judgment to secure gold, Dobsonnn just out-secured me, that's honestly acceptable as well. It's that's a pretty coin flippy sort of secure.
Right.
For Doku to charge the ultimate and then not fire it makes no sense at all to me. I mean, you've got to come in with every objective pull. Before you pull it, there should be a conversation had. And it's not even a conversation. Usually it's one person's job on your team to say, this is what we are doing on this objective. If this happens, we are doing this. If this happens, we are doing this. That conversation was either not had or not followed, right? And neither one's a good sign.
Well, literally every active in the game is available. Nothing burnt on that Gold Fury fight. Dobsonnn has to use his Aegis here to stay alive, but SCC is going to turn around the damage. Reeqo takes to the skies, and Anvil of Dawn crashes down, but no stun there. Still 3 members strong. 60, they do lose 1 member, so this is a numbers advantage for just F6. Last time they lost to Gold Fury with the numbers advantage. This time they're looking towards this mid-tier 1.
Grouped up as 5. I mean, you've still got Khepri ult, so this is a pretty good position for just F6 to be in now.
And Odi's going to dash into the back line. Reeqo taken low. Shell gives them a little bit of shielding and maybe makes Odi think twice. As he bat out of Hell's his way back to the mid lane with the rest of his team. So 1 kill advantage is really all we find here from just F6. Maybe a little bit of poke on that mid lane tier 1. 60, they're still holding on to that 3.3k gold lead and 6,500 XP.
They've got a great lead right now, and the XP really made a big difference in that last engagement in mid, because if CaptainOti is level 17, matching that of Turtle, he kills Reeqo there. Pretty much guaranteed in my mind, but just a little bit too far behind, doesn't have enough damage. Shell comes out for switch, as well as the healing from the 2, the Mending Waters. That's really difficult to punch through. And SCC has a little bit of anti-heal. Doku has a little bit of anti-heal. I think that Just F6 is doing a good job of respecting that healing output coming from Yemoja. It's heal and shield. You can only take care of one of those 2 factors. The shield is going to play no matter what.
VaporishCoast, this time around, realizing that it's Jing Wei, crit maybe makes more sense in that build, is going to go Bloodforged into XE, but then Rage to follow it up. So Jing Wei will hurt just plenty in the right position there. Totti, similar build though, but the Aussie has started to become a very popular first item for a lot of hunters.
It is, but I'm not a big fan of it quite yet. It's just not. You feel like it should be really good, right? I'm getting power, attack speed, pen, lifesteal. It's every stat I could ever want. But it's not a whole lot of those stats.
Right.
It's just a little bit. I just don't know if the power spike is good enough.
It's a little bit of a lot, and Rottwen is going to look to get himself out of this one. Ults himself. He's going to drop right back down, but you don't have much health there, and the last-ditch effort to keep himself alive doesn't work out. Doku burns the Aegis, but a double kill now for Turtle. That's a level 18 Achilles here with 3 kills to his name. Swooping in now is Odi, has the ultimate to get himself out. Huyi drops his ultimate as well. A couple swoops and a dash out. Achilles still has a cooldown on his ultimate should he choose to use it, but a blink back beneath the tier 2 keeps him alive. Huyi uses the dash, but a great block there from Switch keeps Odi locked in. SCC is up in the air, but I don't imagine he looks for much more here. You lose 3 members in a tier 1 if you're just F6.
Man, this is not looking good for just F6. This Ratatoskr early game got bullied out. Rottwen just has not been able to stay safe, and Switch has had a much better game on Yemoja. This is what Yemoja is really supposed to do to games in her current state, in my mind. Look at her player damage. She has as much as RemagDoku. Dobsonnn has done 3k damage. It's just that she has so many buttons up all the time. That's before even talking about the amount of healing that she's done. So you add in both of those 2 factors. You basically add in 2,000 to that player damage. She's near the top of the entire list in terms of effectiveness so far. Then it's what sort of mobility has she added in? How many people has she walled off with that ultimate? I mean, this character is insane. And credit to Switch. I think that game 1, he did next to nothing on this character. Now, he's a major factor on why 60 is looking very poised to win the set.
And I think that's why yesterday Gore and I were baffled that in one of the sets she was neither pick nor banned. We were on the desk and we couldn't even converse about the rest because
it was crazy.
The fact that she made it through was so wild, but not here today. Switch has played her twice and she was banned out in game number 2 of this set. But 60 firmly in control here. They're going to grab themselves their second Fury of this game, as well as FG. So this left side tower seems to be their target of aggression. Up in the air goes Reeqo, and you might not have to crash down onto SCC. Maybe just to confirm the kill. Saves it, does crash down to the back line. Dobsonnn confirms the kill onto Doku. As Reeqo has made his way down in that Anvil of Dawn, SCC is going to make it out alive after it's all said and done.
Dobsonnn just doubled his player damage. And that's what is going to happen, is that everyone's going to go, look, Scylla's OP, he just one-shot that guy. Of course he did. He's level 19 and he had no player damage before that. What do you mean?
Just F6, they want to take this fight. River's Rebuke is going to split it just a little bit. Ultimate used onto Rottwen himself as SCC is able to move in and get the kill onto Scylla. So 55 seconds remaining. These death timers at 22 minutes. You might be in the lead, but you lose 1 member. You're behind for about a minute. So slight overextension there and a good engage from Just F6 finds him a kill.
Looks like that was really a lot of credit to Totti right there because he got Dobsonnn a little bit too low before and switched. He poked them both out. I believe that was him that set up for Sotos' dunk to insta-kill Dobsonnn on the dunk down. I think that Sotos actually done the right thing. I think a lot of Ratatoskr players like to build tank because, oh, I'm not going to do as much in the late game. I'm not really a late game character, and that's true. And tank Rat works really well when you're ahead because your base damage lets you leverage that and just stay doing enough damage to kill people and make it really hard to trade you out. But when you fall behind, you can't build enough defense to stay relevant. Build damage. It's going to help you out more. Now, Sotos has split the difference a little bit. He's gotten pretty hybrid, both shields. And having both Rudic Shield and Void Shield on two characters that are going to be the exact same spot in the exact same team fight does feel like nails on a chalkboard to me a little bit. But at least it's not pure defense. We're looking at the silver linings here.
Right, it's small hybrid and maybe if stacked properly, could tilt the team fight in your favor. But you're going to need a little bit more of a tilt, probably a full 180-degree spin here for Just F6 to keep you in this one. Tier 2 tower under attack. That's Totti using his escape to do just that. Fire Giant up in a minute and a half still on 4 out of 5 members of 60.
Oh.
That's what we've seen. Blink forward from Switch. River's Rebuke is going to lock in Rottwen, who's not able to use his ultimate this time, and Reeqo slams down onto Oti. Suddenly 2 members are down. It looks like there's a disengage, but 60, they found a couple kills.
Good blink engagement by Switch. This Yemoja has been a huge factor for them so far, no doubt.
This is right side Phoenix, chipped away. 3 members remaining on the defense for Just F6, and now there's a bit of disengage. We have seen teams stack up on this wall, and the moment the enemy team tries to step out of base, they get dunked on, but it looks like that will not be what happens here. You have 2 more open Phoenixes you can go for. Fire Giant buff, rather, just now falling off. Still 20 seconds on Oti, as Camazotz has had a rough game so far, to say the least. Now 60, they kind of control their own destiny, I think, in this one, with Fire Giant up at 40 seconds.
Yeah, this is the garbage time, so to speak, where you just gotta walk around, clear your buffs, talk about what you want to eat after this, see what's kind of going on in everybody's life, and then oh yeah, Fire Giant's up. Now we can go and grab it. So now for Just F6, this garbage time is actually very important because they have to finish some really important items. Looks like both Oti and Sotos are working towards Heartseekers. They've got to try and split up and get enough farm to get those. Can we actually check gold in hand for both Sotos and Oti? Okay, so Sotos is close. He's going to have to sell his Assassin's Blessing, but he'll get there at some point. Oti does not look likely to get there. He needs about 1,000 gold before he's going to be able to pick that up.
I like that hover from Doug. The Caduceus shield picked up from Turtle.
Yeah.
You talk about just base level healing and shielding from a Yemoja. That's just going to amplify it somewhat.
And it works well for Achilles as well, because when he pops that too, he gets a lot of healing himself. This is a really good item. We see it a lot on Camazotz in particular. Oti fell a little bit too far behind this game, I suppose, to really consider it. But I think that this item is very, very strong in the right hands, and I love it in this game. It helps the Achilles, it helps the Yemoja. It's going to even help the lifesteal from VaporishCoast. Or no, maybe it's only a healing by ability, but either way, it's still a really strong pickup here.
Well, the fire objectives taken down relatively and completely uncontested. It is by abilities, as you point out. So mid lane Phoenix, maybe looking nervous. Left side Phoenix is as well. Primal Fury will fall. It's turtle time for Just F6. Maybe looking for a sneaky engagement for 60 as well. I don't think you'll find anything all that sneaky. Just F6, a little bit too nervous to even move themselves out of their base. How does that defense look, though, for Just F6? I mean, things are looking dire, but do they have a comp that can maybe get it done?
Yeah, I mean, Thoth is excellent on the defense. His poke is really safe from a distance. It doesn't clear the wave that well because you need to be a little bit too close, but you can poke frontliners really effectively, make it hard for them to get in there and engage. That's about it. Ho Yield is great, but it's limited. You're only using it once on defense.
Oh, we're going to get to see them try their hand at it now, and Turtle is just kind of brushing off a good bit of what Doku is trying to throw out at him, and it is a 4-1 split, as we've so often seen. They're going to send their Thor to the mid lane, but now Oti is there as well to maybe try to make it a 2v1, but you've left a numbers disadvantage along this left-hand side. Totti drops down the ultimate for just a little bit of poke, and Turtle finds himself in the back line using his ultimate to disengage. Sotos, he drops down. River's Rebuke as well. popped now by 60 to maybe re-engage on this fight. Left side Phoenix has not taken all that much damage here. It's a 1 for none, so 4 members of 60 still going strong. Oti into that ultimate is going to save his life. Rottwen pulls him right on back, so the Khepri doing some good here for his team. They get the kill, burn the ultimate. They don't get this Phoenix.
Not yet, but they've got pressure on this right-hand side. That right side Phoenix is coming up. I'd actually like to see 60 rotate over to the right, going for this healthy Phoenix. A little bit risky, but that right side Phoenix is going to respawn. Fire minions are close behind you, and it's going to be very weak. I think it's a bit of a mistake, even in the 4v5, to let just F6 get that right side Phoenix up.
VaporishCoast will do so much damage to it if he's left unchecked. But I think to just F6's credit, they haven't let that happen. Reeqo has to use his ultimate up into the air and might end up looking for a side engage here. Instead, he's just going to move.
Good wall.
Side Harpies. Switch throws up the River's Rebuke. Phoenix has been left kind of unattended by just F6 here. VaporishCoast has to use both actives to keep himself alive, and Airstrike moves him back to safety. So no kills just yet here, and Totti playing safe as well. Fire minions pouring down the right lane. You don't need a god in that lane if the minions are just going to get it done, and it does end up falling.
I guess not. I mean, 60 does effectively the same thing, and that's just put enough pressure on the left that the right side goes down. That's just important that they get that left side down, and Coast doesn't have to back. He just sustains up with Fire Giant and that Blood Forge and is ready to go again.
3 ultimates ready for just F6, 2 and almost 3 for 60. Left side and mid side Phoenix still chipped away. Titan under attack by Fire Minions. Don't have to pull back for it just yet, but you might have to the more these waves pull down. Reeqo, he's going to take this mid lane Phoenix, get himself out to safety. Both of the junglers are going to look for a dunk here as Switch throws out another River's Rebuke. Down comes crashing, Reeqo rather, into the back line, so no engagement there, and iSotos does much the same. 2 Phoenixes down, Titan chipped away, left side Phoenix very low.
And those right side Fire Minions aren't going anywhere, Dave. They've been putting pressure on this Titan. Look at how long 60 sent here. This is just Yemoja sustain over and over and over again.
Rottwen one more time has to use that Khepri ult onto Oti, who's now been saved as many times by it. Looks like this is 60 saying, we'll take those 2 Phoenixes and we'll move ourselves backwards.
Fire Giant's gone.
Absolutely. You only really need one more push, and then with 45 seconds left, could be another uncontested FG. Fury will come up afterwards, so I don't imagine they go for that one. Take the Oracles, get some vision, and maybe move to the right-hand side.
With Fire Giant falling off, I mean, they've clearly had some trouble against that Thoth defense already. You saw the poke damage on a Switch, on a Turtle, and even on a Coast. Pretty easily landing for him consistently, so that's where Thoth is going to be at his most obnoxious, is on these defenses. Just really around Phoenixes. He's really good on the offense as well. He does the exact same thing there. His range is just unmatchable. No one's going to be able to match how far away Doku can poke.
Well, he's spiked up the damage charts on the left-hand side, and it's in large part and almost entirely in thanks to that they've been absorbing pressure this entire time. They are close by. Just F6 are close by if they want to move in, but I don't imagine they do. Maybe take this tier 1 tower instead. Oti makes me stand myself corrected. iSotos is up in the air, and Reeqo does the same. Not sure he'll look for a dunk. Deep in the back line, finds one, and it's Rottwen. Fire Giant re-engaged on by 60 here, and it looks like just F6 might try to contest.
He got Totti's beads with that dunk, so that's relevant, but just F6 feel like they're not winning with 2 Phoenixes down, but 60's doing the right thing. Slow it down. No reason to rush anything here. Look at all the fire waves coming down the right-hand side.
Right-hand side.
Someone's got to answer those, and then if there are enough members of just F6 still around, we fight them then. Just no need to rush.
Yeah, I mean, it's that kind of slow burn. The minions, they do about a quarter of the damage to just F6's Titan here, so you have to pull back and identify those. It's going to be a much quicker objective, and the Pyromancer taken down by 60. You do see sort of similarities between the jungle play styles. Reeqo and iSotos both kind of leap to the air and look for an engagement in most of these fights, but still cautious from 60, realizing that this one fight goes wrong 30 minutes into this game, and you can lose.
You can. It's going to be difficult to lose because the waves aren't pushed up enough, and you'd have to go through fire waves to get to the Phoenix, but it's certainly a possibility at this point.
This could be a beautiful opportunity for Anvil of Dawn to crash down. He finds Totti. I'm a Monster combines. Well timed from Rottwen. to save his Hunter's life. But this is the fight that 60 may have been looking for. Totti, for just a bit more disengaged, drops down the ultimate, and Oti finds himself with 4 members of 60 looking at him. SCC drops down. That's a 3-man knockup. Totti was able to back himself off and get the kill onto Turtle, and SCC does the same. A double kill from Dobsonnn. You're looking at a 2-for-2, 3 men strong. You got Doku, Rottwen, and Totti versus Reeqo, Dobsonnn, and Switch.
Man, that was close, but Rottwen gets the ultimate off just in time in order to res Totti, and then he ends up peeling for him very nicely as Turtle overextends a little bit to try and get that kill. Totti's able to turn that around, heal up. This is going to result in Oni Fury with that right side Phoenix respawned now for Just F6. They did a good job of contesting that fire and keeping the waves pushed at the exact same time. 60 wasn't able to find an opening to try and punish them for being so far up, and now you've got both Phoenixes up. As soon as you handle this Oni wave in the mid lane, that's an Oni fire wave, so that one's going to be really, really scary. But as soon as you take care of those, this game is pretty much even. Full build on both sides.
And the left side Phoenix that 60 spent so long trying to siege down, it was so low a few minutes ago, is almost fully gotten itself back up to full health, so not much to show for it on the left-hand side. Not a lot of vision either. 60 has that one ward just on the other side of the fire pit. That's about it. You will know Just F6 are somewhat in range, and I guess to your credit, or kind of to your point, this is something Just F6 will consider contesting.
Absolutely. I mean, they did it last time, and we're pretty close. The big thing is that Relics are still down for SCC, but no Aegis up for Coast.
Time is here, the time is now. Wards for 60 spot out the offense from Just F6. Reeqo in the back line, Anvil of Dawn is up. Anvil of Dawn is down, and he's found 2 stuns. Turtle doesn't get the execute, and he has to move himself backwards. Suddenly SCC has rejoined this fight, and River's rebuke from Switch is going to separate the teams. Just F6 do a good job of absorbing that pressure. 60, they're left licking their wounds.
But 60's fine with that because they've got the Yemoja. They can sustain really, really well. Now, they took way more damage than that of Just F6, so Just F6 can stick around just
You wouldn't know it.
They're just healthier, but as you mentioned, not for long with Yemoja sustained.
Well, only ultimate is for VaporishCoast in this game right now. Double beads, or double relics rather, for both of the mid laners. Shell is up for both of the Guardians as well. Could end up playing a big role into this one. 60 move themselves forward. You've kind of lost now on both teams the big engage. You've looked for the Thor dunk and the Ratatoskr dunk as a lot of engage for both sides, and you don't have that here.
No, but Reeqo already has it back. I mean, he's got plenty of CDR in the build, 40% for him. He's capped on CDR. Same cannot be said for SCC, and that's why he's still waiting on his ultimate.
That one is locked down. Big wave on the left-hand side, but it might not matter if this fight goes the way of 60. Reeqo is looking for the engagement. Oti backs himself off, comes crashing down. Is that Thor? There's the execute from Turtle. Cooldown reset. SCC could crash down. Oh, he finds a big knock-up here in the FG pit. Just F6, they need to turn around some damage. They haven't quite found it yet, and there it is. Doku gets the kill onto Turtle. It's a 1-for-1. Solo laners down. Switch left disengaging, but it's Turtle and Oti who are your 2 casualties.
SCC with a massive 4-man ultimate. That is huge. And then Doku's right there with the ultimate. Maybe a slight second too late, but it does the job because it hits Dobsonnn as he's casting I'm a Monster. That was 1,000 damage on Dobsonn's head. That forces him back and makes it a clean 1-for-1 with both solo laners being the only ones to exit. I like the way that 60 has really found these engagements, though. They're going off Reeqo's ultimate nicely, and Turtle's always right there. They're trying to get that execute before Rottwen, where it doesn't matter if Rottwen's ultimate is even there, because Achilles' execute will go through Capri ult and negate it entirely. That's the wombo combo that 60's trying to execute, but it's requiring Reeqo to drop the hammer in order to do it, which means it's costing him his escape, which makes it pretty tough to survive after the fact.
Well, SCC, I think, really pulls that one back for Just F6. Could have been a 1-for-none, but a massive re-engage from that Ratatoskr. Moving into this late game, there were some questions about how it would look, but the engage potential's still there on this Rat, and SCC has made it look good. 4-2-4 now, 36 minutes into this game. Still Fire Giant will be the target of aggression from both these teams. Jungle fights abound. 37 minutes into this game. 5 ultimates ready Only active used for the mid laners is the Aegis from Doku, so that's something to be mindful of. Will have his beads. Won't be able to just completely shrug off and engage if 60 are able to find it.
It's just really hard to team fight against a Thoth because Coast has been pretty ineffective recently, but who is he supposed to hit? I mean, you've got Rottwen who's staying far back so that he can execute. You've got Oti who might go in for a second, but then immediately ult, so you can't be hitting him. Totti and Doku are behind Rottwen, or right next to him at the very least. You don't have anybody to hit right now, and so it's really just Turtle and Reeqo that are kind of tasked with doing the majority of the damage.
Careful Doku, and Reeqo thought maybe for a moment about following that one up. Watch out for SCC. He has used the Ratatoskr ultimate, and
that's big.
Doesn't look like he's going to find the engage that he was looking for. 60 were grouped up, but just F6 maybe weren't in the position. Going back is Doku as well. Got poked out enough by Reeqo that he's going to have to heal up and rejoin this fight.
That's big that they know that Sotos' ultimate is down, so 60 has that information. That's one of the big things is that with Thor, sometimes you can go up and go right back down and no one really knows. Sotos' ultimate leaves those big branches behind. It's obvious.
Blink forward from Rottwen, beads out by Reeqo here for just a little bit of poke. That's about all this one has. Sotos still a quarter of the way to his ultimate. Fire Giant wondering why everyone is standing around him and not doing much fighting. The thoughts are there, but again, you talk about how this has been 60's game. You're effectively even 38 minutes in. This could be the engagement, though. Damage drops down from Dobsonnn. Turtle's just going to move forward, and once more, it looks like this one will fizzle out.
Just using Switch's healing to their advantage. Switch still has Blink, so Switch should really just be standing at some of these choke points right around here and looking for that, but didn't catch Doku nearly, though.
Oti's able to just walk his way around. Reeqo drops down onto Rottwen, who doesn't have the ultimate for himself, or might just have to. That's a double kill, double execute from Turtle. Swooping through now is Oti, just has one more before he has to drop right back in. Sotos does that, 3 members down. What a fight from 60. Oti will fall, and 4 men down. Totti left defending. Ryan, this is looking like it could be game.
No doubt about it. The D aside 5 for 0 for 60. Took them a little bit longer than they would have liked. They had that game in the bag a while ago, it felt like, but a really good defense by just F6. You got to give them credit. They did a good job of defending. They had 2 Phoenixes down, 1 1/4 HP. Still had just as good a chance to end this game as just F6 did, but 60 ends up taking the win in just under 40.
Big difference maker there. I think Reeqo in that jungle.
Agreed.
Didn't have massive amounts of kills, but you could tell the game plan that 60 were bringing to the table. Let's fight around this Thor ultimate. Let's find some picks, and they did a good job of it at the end.
And Switch again finds another. Now engagement wasn't as good, but he gets the fight started, and his play throughout the entire game was much, much better on the Yemoja this time around. I think that 60 is a team that certainly has the potential. I mean, Coast has a competitive experience, so did Dobsonnn and Switch for sure. Got to clean it up a little bit. I mean, ending the game took a little bit longer than it should have, and the really good teams in the Smite Challenger circuit, just F6, still trying to break into that category. Those really good top-end competitors won't let you get away with stumbling for that long.
Well, this is the first of 3 games we'll see out of just F6 today, so we'll get to watch their journey throughout the rest of Group B over here in EU. I think surprisingly, that might be the first time I've really seen a Camazotz kind of completely mitigated from a game. I mean, completely is maybe an overstatement, but not the same impact we're used to seeing at all, even from a Camazotz that's even or slightly behind.
Agreed. Oti had a tough time that game, and really that's because of this play right here where Reeqo gets all 3, switches there with the follow-up CC. I mean, that's the dream for a Thor. He gets the fully stacked passive, so he gets all that extra power. Yeah, that's you're not winning games where that happens very often, but
was that good?
6 nearly did. I think it was, Dave.
I think it was great, and I think it might have set the tone for the rest of this game. It ends up going, 30 some odd minutes, but this is a lot of the view that we saw. 40 minutes even is where we ended up. That was a fight at 20 minutes, and a lot of it thanks to Turtle and a lot of these executes towards the end. Some good body blocks from just F6 throughout this set on those Turtle ultimate or the Achilles executes.
Right.
But when he's left unchecked there towards the end, it turns some fights.
And that's why you pick the Achilles against the Khepri. If that Khepri ult is against most other characters in the game, Doku survives a little bit longer, maybe is able to get some more damage off, get another dash off, something like that. Achilles neutralizes that right away and makes sure that fight's going to go their way easily.
I think for what it's worth, Rottwen had some good Khepri ultimates in that game. Split-second decision-making that needed to be had wasn't quite enough to push them over the finish line. 60, they take this one in 3 games, 2-1 over Just F6. Stick around, though, because after the break, we got some heavy hitters, Poppies versus Freshly Forged.